Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Foxborough's Board of Selectmen, September 22nd, 2015 public meeting. We're going to open up the meeting and go into executive session at 6:30. We have our town council, our town labor attorney, Leo Peliquin, and we're going to discuss to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with union personnel. Discuss litigation specifically relating to the student officer pay issue, and also to approve executive Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from September 8th. And then once we conclude our executive session, we will go into open session at 7, and at that time I'll read the full agenda. There's about 9 or 10 items on it. So do we have a motion to go into executive session? All those in favor? John? Chris? Yes. David and Ginny?
Yes.
Yep. All right, so we'll be back close to 7 o'clock. Thank you. Evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Board of Selectmen September 22nd, 2015 Board of Selectmen meeting. We just came out of executive session at 6:30 where we discussed the litigation specifically relating to student officer pay, working to a resolve on that, and we approved the September 8th Board of Selectmen executive session minutes, but they will not be released yet because there is still some contract negotiation items in it. So I'll go over the remaining items on the agenda. At 7 o'clock, we offer citizens input. At 7:05, we'll provide a selectmen's update. At 7:10, we have invited back the discussion of the medical marijuana dispensary from Beacon Compassion. At 7:30, we're going to be discussing the North Grove traffic study with Chief O'Leary and Officer Hoffman. At 7:45, the Board of Selectmen will discuss the ongoing list of the town warrants for the late fall session. At 8 o'clock, Town Manager Bill Keegan will talk about the Town Manager recommendation for a salary adjustment for our Financial Director, Randy Scollins. At 8:10, Board of Selectmen will discuss the Foxborough Housing Trust topic. At 8:20, we'll have the Town Manager update, and then there's a dozen or so action items. So to start it off, and Ginny, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we do citizens input, if there's anyone here, I wanted to offer a moment of silent prayer and some thoughts at the Selectmen's meeting, and if you're at home, for Vivian Pitts. Vivian passed away suddenly this weekend. She was Foxborough's revenue officer. She retired in 2009. She came to Foxborough in 1983, and she served for about 26 years as our treasurer. When she retired, Selectmen at the time, Jimmy Thrasher, recognized Vivian and gave her a citation for the many years of service for a job well done. And I know when Lisa Sinkus took over as the current financial officer, she was quoted as saying she's a great boss, a great teacher, and a great friend. And I know that's the way a lot of people at town will remember Vivian. So if we can just give her a moment of her of silence and respect for her family. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here for citizens input? If so, if you could just come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Okay. Janet Kennedy.
You can pull that down.
Okay, yeah. Janet Kennedy on Cohasset Street. My concern is, as some of you know, I fell on the sidewalk and I injured my shoulder. Now I hear it's going to be another month. I mean, this is a public safety issue. This has been going on since the last week of June, and sidewalks are still not done on Leonard and Sherman. And yesterday they had to make some of the sidewalks bigger, I guess, for regulations, I guess. I mean, all I hear you all are always talking about public safety. This is a public safety issue. I wasn't the only one that fell. I guess some boy fell in June, and he broke his a collarbone, and he also had a separated shoulder like I did. So I don't know who's been hired. I don't blame the gentlemen who are digging up it because they're only doing what their boss tells them. But I don't know who the company is that you're going to have do the sidewalks. But if they can't do it, I would get another one because it is a public safety issue. I mean, this should have been done before the kids went to school. And there's a lot of older people like me who are having a hard time walking their dogs who are walking in the middle of the street of Leonard and Sherman. And that's public safety.
All right, thank you, Janet.
Thanks, Janet.
So I know you fell. I don't know the specifics of what, where, how, and what have you, but I know you've been in touch with Janet,
Yes.
Ms.
Oh,
Kennedy.
yeah.
So it sounds like, I mean, it's a general discussion on the process of constructing and stuff, so.
Right, it didn't, and I'm scheduled to get an update tomorrow morning from the Director of Public Works on status of projects, so I'll have a better understanding of where that's at this point. I know there's been a lot of focus on Cedar Street as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of attention on that road right now, but they're trying to get everything wrapped up, of course, before winter. And there's been a lot of work going on around town, so it's the challenge we find sometimes is that we can't always get the paving contractor lined up because they're working other places other than ours. So a job like that sometimes will, particularly sidewalks where it requires a lot of handwork. So as a result, it can be delayed because of the crews not being available to do it. So I don't know that for a fact in this case, but I'll certainly find out tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, obviously we've been doing a tremendous amount of construction. And Janet, I'm sorry for your predicament, and I'm sure we can always do better, but keep that in mind moving forward, I guess.
I think going forward, we need to talk to Roger and set some parameters. Don't open up a street if we can't close it back up within a certain period of time. Because
I think
Leonard and Sherman's been opened up far too long.
Right.
And we need some closure on that.
Little coordination on that. So we'll talk to them about that, because I don't disagree that we could probably do a little bit better coordination on that, but I need to understand all the specifics first before I can come up with a solution with him.
Thank you. Anyone else from citizens input? Sure. Mr. Chief O'Leary.
Thank you, Edward O'Leary, Ridge Road. I'm here on behalf of the HUGS Foxborough group, the Domestic Violence Prevention and Education group, and just to announce that we're going to be having our benefit walk on Saturday, October 3rd. The hours for registration are from 9 to 10. The walk will start at 10, and if any members of the board could make it, we'd appreciate it. I know that we did get a call on our phone line, and a message was left by the Lieutenant Governor wondering about some time sequences, and we've called her office back because I think she's trying to make an appearance at our walk, which is really important. And to tie in with that, if you've been reading the paper, certainly the Attorney General collaborating with Robert Kraft's group to introduce a new curriculum at 100 different school systems across the state on teen dating violence. I think will have a very positive effect on still ongoing problems that we have in our community and other communities with family violence. So I'm hoping that all these things go into place so we don't have the issues that sometimes our officers have to deal with. But thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief, can you just stay for 1 second while you're there? Actually, related to HUGS, they did. I think they reached out to us. Did you guys get emails?
Yeah, I got an email.
So it's a great group, and it's only 1 mile. So some of us that are athletically challenged can do it without running. But also, while you're here, there's a National Night Out has been rescheduled.
Well, it's part. I got a hold of Linda, and part of the program that we're doing on Saturday morning is the drug take-back program that we do in conjunction with the DEA. And I suggested to Linda that there were some groups that were prepared to talk about different issues that we have in our community. So we'll have that capability and tying it into the National Drug Take-Back. And sort of a mini version But I know Linda's been working diligently on it so that we'll have some other people just to show up, and we'll have one of those moonwalk things if you're looking for something to do with your younger children. And hopefully we'll get a better crowd. Now, last time we did it with the DEA, we did have over 40 residents bring in medications that were either old or unused, and everything that we can get out of people's homes reduces the risk of people misusing them, whether they're visiting in the house or other family members that it's really not prescribed for.
Mhm. Great. And that's this Saturday, right? 10
That's
to-
this
10 to
Saturday
2.
from 10 to 2.
Yep. And then, just lastly, I did write down some of the groups that are going to be there. Learn to Cope, support group for friends and families of addicts. TAM, the addict's mom, it's a support group for the moms. Hugs will be there. BAMSI, the folks who help the mentally disabled as well as families through crisis. And Linda's and Chris's new group, RAFT, Raising Addiction Awareness for Foxborough. The Banyan Group, which is a treatment facility. Foxborough's Child Sexual Abuse Awareness Committee, one that we formed a few years ago. And there's just, there's a tremendous amount of information in it, and, between the epidemics and, even the stuff that Bill Sheehan had brought through Foxborough. If you get the hour or so to come by, it's well worth it. If you're the person that gets a little more educated and you're the person that can see something and stop something, it's well worth it. You saw the tragedy that came out over the summer with Baby Doe and what's been coming on. So people are saying if I could have known or done something, but it's a great opportunity, and you guys do a tremendous. JC's you, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Anyone else for citizens input? Sure.
Hi, my name's Patricia Stevens. I live on Mechanic Street. I've been in town since 1989. I just wanted to voice my support for Beacon Compassion Center. I have been in the medical field since 1972. I have people that I have worked with back in the late 70s when cannabis was not legal, but used it for cancer help. And I voted for it in 2012. And I just wanted to let people know I live in Foxborough, and I have just been told about the company. I haven't known them long, but I'm here to support it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else from citizens? I just wanted to give a couple updates under Selectmen update. Oh, sorry, one more. Sure.
Hi, my name is Douglas Rhodes. I'm a registered nurse. I live in Sharon, so I'm only one town over. I was at the last meeting where you addressed medical marijuana. I dropped off a few, or I emailed you some peer-reviewed studies.
Yep.
Just want to take a minute. I don't know if I'm allowed to approach you guys.
Sure.
Just drop these off. This is Time and Newsweek. These are pretty mainstream publications. They both have special issues this month. One of the things they addressed is as a harm reduction strategy and for public health dealing with epileptics, and also just the fact of helping with the heroin epidemic in this country, and that states that have allowed access to medical marijuana have seen a 24.8% drop in deaths from both legal and illegal use of opiates. And with the problem that we're having in New England, I think this is a real way to address it, and I think it's the state has allowed it. The state has had special training for people in the medical industry, people who have their permission from their doctor, then get permission from their state, yet they still don't have safe access and are forced to either not get the medication that the doctor and the state agrees that they should have, or they'd have to go to the black market to get it. Neither of these are good solutions for public health for anybody. And just thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to look into this.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. And if you want to stick around, this item is on the agenda following this, so. Oh, we have one more? Sure.
My name is Lisa Chilipano, and I live on Cohasset, and I'm here to support Beacon Compassion. And I'm fine with the location, and I support Rena. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So a couple quick updates. I wanted to express my thanks and gratitude. There was three. It's a busy weekend in Foxborough, the McGinty Family Fun Day, the POW MIA, the missing man table that was manned for 24 hours straight, and the 9/11 remembrance. It was something that Foxborough, a lot of volunteers, public safety, a lot of people coming together for something that is pretty unique in one weekend. So I wanted to say thank you to all the people that did that. Fireman's Ball happened between today and our last meeting. That was something that was nice to see after so many years of not having it, and I think they're planning on bringing it back every other year now, so that's something nice. October 1st, there's a joint public meeting between the Foxborough Board of Selectmen and the Water and Sewer Commissioners. This is a second meeting. If anyone's interested, it's going to be at the Public Safety Building on October 1st at 7. And that's an opportunity to talk about water service with expansion with respect to our master plan. And the first meeting we talked about water downtown. We had some to-do list from their engineering department in water and sewer.
Sewer.
Oh, I'm sorry, water, not sewer. Yeah, hopefully everyone has water.
Yeah, that's right.
The other part of that, sewer. So this is the second meeting, so, and thank some of the board members did attend that. So that was something that, you know, the planning board worked hard with the community on the master plan. So if you get some input and some ideas on that, we'd love to see you. Going back to the Common, just a quick shout out. I was walking around the Common, and a gentleman named Art Reynolds from the DPW took time to put up all the yellow ribbons around all the light poles. That was something special. He's not a veteran, but it's in his blood because his family is, and quietly did that, and it's become a tradition with him. It's just nice to see. The other yellow ribbons that you saw around the Common, we're going to talk about in a minute, but those are separate. Those, you saw those around the granite post around the Common and some of the school signs. So that was an effort by the family of Danny Nickerson, Danny's Warriors. We'll talk about that in a minute. One last item. At the last meeting, we talked about the AA bond item where our town is elevated to a high rating, which helps everybody. There was a lot of credit given to the residents, this table for the policies, the people voting on the meeting. Also, the location and the economics and the demographics. I just wanted to mention one thing. We probably could have done a better job talking about the businesses in town that not only build their businesses here but stay. We are 15 years in the middle of a 30-year contract with the Kraft Group. So I had a discussion with them last week, and what I'd like to offer is an opportunity for the Board of Selectmen and any board or committee in town with the public, 15 years into the lease, to go over to the stadium at a public meeting, and they're going to give us a tour of all the construction that's going on at the hotel, the stuff that they just completed, some of the businesses. And I know it would probably give this table an opportunity to understand it better when things are in front of us, and either good things or bad things. So they gave me a few dates, and if you could just think about it, it's October 13th, 14th, 15th, or 16th. If you could let me know if any of those dates are good, I'll get back to them.
I'm in DC that whole week.
Are they weekdays or weekends?
That is Tuesday through Friday.
Okay.
Would it be during the day or night?
It's anything that we wanted to
The only
do.
day that week I'm home is Thursday. Otherwise, I'm traveling that whole week.
Friday you might be able
No,
to go.
Thursday I'm home. Friday morning I get on a plane.
Okay,
But
Thursday.
I mean, don't open
Yeah.
up because of me.
It'd be nice to have the whole board there, but any of you
Thursday
guys
I
have
can
any
do it.
ideas, any thoughts on that?
I think it's a good idea.
I'm available the 16th and the 12th, so that doesn't help. Just the 16th I've got.
The 16th?
Yep.
Okay. David?
I think I am available either the 15th or 16th.
Ginny?
You available the 16th?
Not a Thursday.
It's a Friday.
16th is a
Not
Friday.
available Friday. I'm flying out to North Dakota.
I'll
Okay.
fly right over you.
What I can do is, I'll send you guys an email if you just give me your
All right.
dates. Jenny, do you have any thoughts on that?
I can't do the 15th. I could. I'd have to change an appointment. If that's
Okay.
the only time anybody can come, I could do that.
The 15th.
But the other days are fine.
Okay. All right, so I'll work again with you guys and then let them know. And again, this is, they extended it to a public meeting, so if there's any boards and committees at home that would like to come, it's going to be posted, and I'm assuming it's just going to be a tour of the facility. To that end, I also wanted to thank the board. The last month, July and August and September, have been pretty busy. And the board and Bill and Mary Beth, I see you guys more at ribbon cuttings and, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly through town. And a lot of it's weekends and nights, so I appreciate that. A lot of people, you know, this goes to other boards as well, but the volunteers in this town do a lot, so I just want to say thanks when I see you guys out there. We have a citation. This month, we declared it Child Cancer Awareness Month, and it was brought to us by the family of Danny Nickerson. So that's what the ribbons were. So it was presented to us, the idea at the last meeting. We voted for it. So I think John has a citation we wanted to read publicly.
Sure. At the last meeting, we decided that a proclamation would be the proper way to commemorate Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Is the month of September. We're a little bit late, but I think this is appropriate, and I'll read this as it's written. Town of Foxborough, a proclamation. Whereas the town of Foxborough recognizes and supports children and their families who have battled childhood cancer, and whereas each year in the United States, 15,780 children under the age of 21 are diagnosed with cancer, and approximately 25% of them will not survive. And whereas the town of Foxborough, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and communities throughout the country are committed to advance research, improve treatment, and ensure a brighter, healthier future for all our young Americans. And whereas clinical research and scientific advances in medicine have helped decrease mortality rates for many types of pediatric cancer by more than 50% over the past 30 years. And whereas we remember all those victims whose lives are shortened by childhood cancer, and we support every child and their families who are battling cancer each day. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen that the month of September be designated as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Foxborough. In witness whereof, we have set our hand and caused the seal of the town of Foxborough to be affixed on this 22nd day of September 2015, signed by the Board of Selectmen, James DeVellis, David Feldman, Christopher Mitchell, John Gray, and Virginia Coppola.
Thank you, John, and thank you for the family of Danny to bring that forward to the town. So moving forward, that's going to be September. And then, I mean, that's...
We can present that to
Yeah.
Mrs. Nickerson.
Yeah, very good.
Great, thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, we have the discussion of the medical marijuana dispensary with Beacon Compassion Center. So there's anyone from the applicant that want to come to the table? Thanks. So as they're setting up, just to remind the board how we kind of got here. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health updated their application process, and in July 21st, Beacon Compassion came in front of us, and we took that time to really listen to the application, took it under advisement. We heard public input. Between now, September 22nd, and back to July 21st, we invited our counsel to give us a update, or a kind of educate us on our role and responsibilities and obligations under the new law. I know Beacon had a few neighborhood meetings or community meetings over at the library, invited people, some of us went to, and I'm sure we've done our own research and outreach. We asked town manager to reach out to our department heads for their input. So over the last 2 months, I think we've got a lot of new information in our packet. The old application, if you still have it, but there's a September 17th new application, or revised with some additional information on it. So what I'd like to do is we'll introduce the applicant again, make their presentation. I'd like to hear from anyone from the audience. We'll go over to town manager. They can update us on any department head comments. And then we can, while Beacon is still here, ask questions. And then there's a couple choices. I want to read the letter that our attorney gave us, just because it's been a while. And it kind of gives us the steps that he recommends. As discussed, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health has recently revised its application process for registered marijuana dispensaries to accommodate the new round of applications filed after June 29th, 2015. I'm just skipping around a little bit. The DPH recently issued a document entitled Guidance for Municipalities Regarding the Medical Use of Marijuana, updated, and that was in our packet as well. In consideration of the above guidance from the DPH, the town has, in essence, 3 choices when presented with a request to issue such a letter. Option 1, agree to issue a letter of support. 2, agree to issue a letter of non-opposition. Or 3, decline to take either such action or to take no action in that regard. The regulations in DPH reference materials do not address what, if any, ramifications there may be for a municipality which declines or refuses to issue either the letter of support or letter of non-opposition. It appears to be solely within the jurisdiction of each city and town whether or not to issue such a letter. So the letter goes on, but that was basically the gist. So at the end of this presentation and public hearing, we can vote to an action or continue it, but those are our 3 choices right there. You guys all set?
Yep.
Okay, so welcome.
Hi.
Welcome back. Thank you.
I'm Rena Comedy, president of Beacon Compassion Center. With me is Steve Angelo, the executive director. As you well know, 3 of the selectmen were at our community meeting last Wednesday night. We gave a presentation, had a few speakers, and took questions and comments from the audience. Overall, we think it was very positive. We heard some really good comments from some of the residents that live in the community, saying that they thought it was very informative. So we got a hopefully a very good feel from that meeting. We are planning on doing another community meeting, targeting more of the neighborhoods right behind the location of the dispensary, just to let them know that this will be going on in the event that some of the residents didn't know that this was happening. So we'd like to do the presentation again. We have a tentative date in October at this point, also set with the library. So we would like to give that presentation again to other people that, that were not able to attend that evening. Also, in addition, we have recently added a couple of new board members since the last time that we were here. One of them is a clinical social worker. Her name is Tracy Quigg. She would be very instrumental in with helping us as well. And the other new member is Bob LaBelle. He is the sportscaster. He is also a medical marijuana patient. So again, adding the 2 of them, we really have well-rounded the board as well. We have, met with we've joined the Tri-Town Chamber Commerce, have gone to a couple events there, told them, who we are and what we do, and have found pretty much 0 opposition coming from them as well. We have included a new packet, and I'm sure most of you, we have a couple extras in the event that someone didn't get it, but it was just more of a mini application that we had also supplied for another town, just to give you a little bit more detail of some question and answers that that we've provided, and also in addition we've added our host agreement to the packet as well too. And we also, again, as some of you may or may not know, but we have also received a letter of support from the town of Framingham, which is another dispensary site that we have been looking to, or that we proposed. It was a unanimous decision. We were the only group with a unanimous decision to give us a letter of support to. So that's all I've got.
Just a couple other things I would like to add, and again, I would like to thank the board for bringing this topic up again, and the board members that were able to attend the meeting this week. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, as I did get pulled into a Framingham Selectmen meeting on Wednesday. But just a couple other things, a couple other points that I would like to make is, in addition to some of the activity that Rena mentioned, and we did mention this, I think, in the last time as well, but we did
have the kickoff session with the Route 1 Business Association group before all the parking events took off. We spent about 15 minutes in front of that group, introducing ourselves, explaining to the group what we're proposing and what we're looking to do. And again, in that session, there was no opposition. It varied from not being opposed to supporting. And in fact, one of the individuals, and I did not get his name, one of the individuals that owns one of the lots also owns property in Holbrook. That is being used currently right now for a medical marijuana cultivation center. So he's the owner of that property as well, and his tenant is there. The other thing that I did want to mention is we did a fair amount, and we plan if this board agrees to continue this discussion. We do, and even if it doesn't, and it does vote tonight, and we're allowed to proceed, we will still do this. But I've personally gone door to door to about 10 of the abutters in the neighborhood on North Street. In those discussions, within about 15 minutes, I received 3 letters of support, signed letters of support, from direct abutters and right around the property. One individual is, we didn't get a letter from, but has been out in support of this in the neighborhood and in the paper. Two families in the neighborhood, 2 homes, just expressed that they would like to get some more information. And I had only one family, one home come out in opposition, and those individuals have been here to the prior meetings expressing their concerns. So we plan to canvass the neighborhood with flyers and updates to the next meeting. And while this meeting is open to everybody, we're really targeting the neighborhood from an informational session perspective. We did give, I think, a very extensive informational session this week, but we'd want to go ahead and do that again, if we're afforded the opportunity. And again, I just want to thank this board for their work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay. Anyone from the audience that would, actually, before we do that, Bill, do you want to give an update? One of your charges was to talk to the department heads.
Well, I did reach out to the department heads, and I have gotten feedback from 4 departments directly on point about this particular topic. The police chief is here tonight, and I'm sure he can make his comments himself. But with respect to the Department of Public Health, there's some of the concerns that I've received that come back from that department is that this is still a new field of law, or regulation, if you will. There is the statewide regulation, which everybody here is familiar with, but there is very little local regulation available. In fact, the city of Boston is in the process of promulgating regulations right now, which in many cases will probably be used as a boilerplate for many cities and towns to use on a local level. So that's still in the developmental stage, and I don't know if it's been finalized, but the last indication I saw as this afternoon was that it was still in the working stage. I received feedback from the building departments indicating and more concerns about the building itself, that the previous variances on the building have since expired.
Correct. Yep.
So that would mean that they would have to go through the whole process for 8 or so variances. So I just wanted to make you fully aware of that. And
yes,
just make sure that that's a challenge, as you know, and also then we'll have to go to the planning board as well. And then finally, I did get a feedback from the veterans agent who expressed concern that on several different fronts, because he's done research on worked with the VA on this particular topic, and near as he can tell, based upon the research that's been coming back on the VA front, is that there's still a lot to be learned about the actual use of medical marijuana on that level, and that in some cases it can actually be considered to be detrimental in cases involving PTSD. So there are some additional comments here from the director, but the general sense that the Veterans Director of Veteran Services wanted to indicate was that there's still a lot to be learned, and that it's difficult for him to make a positive comment, positive endorsement of this, of the location of that facility here in this community at this time. So that's primarily the comments. The chief is here, so I don't know if he wants to comment from his end.
Yes,
Yeah.
There were three components to this issue. The first, is that facility going to be secure so that we wouldn't have thefts, larcenies, or misappropriation by staff members working there? The second deals with traffic. Is it going to cause congestion in an already congested area between Route 1 and North Street that covers a lot of traffic during the day? In fact, Officer Hoffman will be tasked to do some traffic counts so we get an idea of what traffic volumes are on normal days. I'm not talking about game days. And the third issue has to do with, to some extent, my research, to some extent, again, based on the prevention field that I've spent most of my life working in. And I just feel that, in particular for the traffic, I think we need more information about traffic flows and what the parking situation is going to be. I know they included a diagram of what the building would look like, the parking. They talked about appointments, but at some places that have opened, it appears to be confusing for people that it seems that more people are showing up than actually have appointments. So I'm concerned about the traffic movement in that area, especially where it's going to be rebuilt at the truck terminals behind it instead of just having open property that would be developed. So I would just urge caution on the part of the board on any decision that you do make because of the long-term unknowns that I think are still out there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Are we able to respond to any of that? Would that be appropriate, or should we?
Why don't we hold off just for a little bit,
Absolutely.
just so we can get a broader.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the audience that wanted to? Yep, if you could just come to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Steve Uden. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I live at 21 Carmine Ave here in Foxborough. I'm civically involved, but I represent none of the activities or businesses I work for in town. I'm speaking strictly as a resident of Foxborough and as a father and a homeowner and taxpayer in this town, or paying my taxes as fast as I can in this town. I want to thank Beacon Compassion Center for their work at reaching out to the community. I think I've attended every informational session that you've had, including those here in the public forum. I was at the Wednesday service, the Wednesday presentation and the Saturday presentation, and I listened quite a bit, and I'll get right to the but. But I am going to ask the board tonight to vote to proceed no further in compassion for the patients that this organization and other applicants chooses to serve. I learned a lot on Saturday that there is a visceral and medical desire and a paradigm here that this and other organizations are pursuing, but from a seed to store perspective, not just this location, but in all four corners of Foxborough, I think that this program is being implemented by the state, and whatever interactions we have from the federal government, the road ahead as it applies directly to Foxborough is at best, in my humble opinion, unclear, probably for years. We have information on one side of the bell curve and the other on the science, on the medical practice, on the artistic use of prescribing and monitoring patients on all types of drugs and treatments. We have location issues with the patients. This covers pediatric, geriatric, regular people, and a state list of maladies that, God bless the people that have these, need treatment and a focus on. I don't think the way this law is presently set up, is conducive to the spirit and the brand of Foxborough, where we like to have oversight and control on things that may be dissimilar but still fall into the idea of, say, alcohol control. If there's a problem in this town, it comes to the board. If we cite a location here, whether it's seed to store or whatever is in the middle, we will be giving our control largely to known and unknown and presently in committee regulations that are administered by the state and not by us. And I have great concern for that. And I think it's important to the investors in this company and the people working very hard to help their patients and clients and community that we end this purgatory that some of us are in. The applicant said that he's spoken with members of the community, abutters. I too have spoken with members of the community who sadly are not here, but I only talked to one person of about 20 who said that they were indifferent to it, and everybody else, and they were largely parents, said no way. And my reply to that after Saturday's meeting was, no way, why? And there is a lot of myth that needs to be dispelled on this, to be fair. But the amount of research that it takes to get your arms around this just as a private citizen is enormous. Enormous. It's sociological, it's legislative, bureaucratic, medical, and scientific, and I don't even know where to start. But I have more questions and confusion after these meetings. And especially, frankly, after Mr. Lobel's presentation, I thought he was all over the map. Then I have answers and certainty. And of one thing I'm certain is that the timing for this to bring what is almost like a pilot program in the state of implementing medical marijuana is a bad place to have a footing here right now, where we understand very, very little about all the ramifications that this encompasses. I'm not the smartest man in town, I'll admit that, but I thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say about it. Good evening.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks.
Anyone else from the audience?
Hi, actually, I really respect your points on that, but the State Department of Public Health has spent about $8 million researching this exact issue and looking at what's happened in other states, looking at the social impact, the medical impact, and has decided, as about 23 other states have at this point, to move forward. So there are people who have dedicated their entire profession, their livelihood, to career only to this subject, and they, with the Department of Public Health, which is certainly known as being a very cautious organization, has decided to move forward, that it is in the public's best interest to allow this. So I brought up a few more articles. This is from the American Journal of Pain, and it's about it being used for diabetics with neuropathy. And then another article on, and it's from a different journal of pain, but it's on also for cannabinoid use for neuropathy for diabetics. So there's many different groups that this can help. And again, it's not for everybody. It's not like aspirin that you can just go to the store and get. You have to go to a doctor who has been specially trained and certified by the state to be able to recommend it to patients. Then that recommendation goes on to the state, who can review the medical information, review that the doctor has the authority to write up the script, and then decide if the patient is going to be issued the card via the state. So there's a lot of checks and balances there to make sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe the training and the amount of training that these doctors get so that they can prescribe this properly?
Absolutely.
I was looking for some information on that and couldn't find it.
So to be able to prescribe in this state, you have to have, in addition to your medical license and everything else, 24 hours of certification just on medical marijuana. This is one of the programs which is available for registered nurses. It's also for doctors, and you get 7 contact hours for pharmaceutical use, it's 3.5 contact hours for pharmaceutical use, and just 3.5 hours for continuing education. As a nurse, I have to do 18 hours a year of continuing education, and this is one of the programs which is offered by the American Medical Association.
So nurses will be able to prescribe
No.
or issue cards?
Neither.
Okay.
Nurses will be able to work with patients who have been prescribed in a hospital setting. So
Okay.
let's just say,
But let me stop you. Is this a prescription or is this an allowance?
so right now, the way the law is written is that it's a recommendation. The difference between a recommendation and a prescription is a prescription, I can go to CVS, get my medication, the insurance company pays for it. That's not the system that we have.
Because I've heard this described as medicine. I'm just trying to make a connection to a regular prescription.
Can I just ask you if you can just go to the microphone and
I'm sorry.
you can still have the dialogue, but
Yes, sir.
separate a little bit.
So the difference between a recommendation and a prescription is a prescription is something that can be filled at CVS. At the point that the recommendation started being issued, there were no dispensaries open in the state. So they couldn't write a prescription because there's no way to get a prescription filled. It is the doctors recommending that you would give this a try because you've already tried other medications and other more traditional practices that they have felt haven't been effective for you.
Another few questions, and anyone can answer them. I've tried to get the answer to this. I think I know the answer to it, but just so the public watching tonight and anyone else who may have this question on their mind can get the answer. Why dispensaries? Why not CVS? Why not a hospital? Why do they need separate standalone dispensaries?
That's actually really easy. And a lot of that comes down to the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry are the two largest lobbyists in the U.S. right now. They give more money to political campaigns than anyone else. And insurance companies really don't want to pay for this as an additional medication. And then as well, we probably will see in the next few years that it will be in a prescription format and it will be paid for. If you look at some of the European countries that have a single payer system, right now in Germany, a doctor can write out a prescription for a specific amount. You can go to a state sanctioned pharmacy, they don't really have CVS, it's a little different system over there, and receive your quantity of medication each month. So the system that you're looking for is already in place in other countries. The US is just a little bit behind. And a lot of that goes down to the single payer system as opposed to the privatized system we have in the US.
And in addition to that, the federal status of marijuana being a Schedule I drug.
Right, just so we clarify, on the federal system, marijuana is still illegal.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Although the Department of Justice has been issued regulations that they are not to spend any money whatsoever on the enforcement of that law. If you're not spending any money on the enforcement of the law, you can't enforce it. Any action you would take on the clock would be money spent towards it. So although it is still technically a Schedule I drug, the Department of Justice has been given very direct orders that they have no budget and they're not allowed to spend any money on pursuing it.
In
its
states,
legal use.
in states that have a medical marijuana program.
Yeah, they can still pursue it if someone is using it outside of the legal system.
Okay,
So-
one more question, and then I'll...
Just for clarity,
Yeah.
I enjoy the dialogue, but
Yes, sir.
you're not the applicant, correct?
I'm not, no,
You're
sir.
not part of the, okay, so if there's questions, I'd rather have them directed to.
Oh, that's where I intend to go,
the
yeah.
applicant, and you could take a seat for now anyways.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate your time and listening.
But-
Thank you.
I have a few questions, but I'll just ask this one, and then we can throw it around. Our Attorney General is actually promoting the fact that legalized marijuana may arrive on as a ballot question coming up this next spring or summer. If recreational marijuana was to become legal in the Commonwealth, would that put you out of business? Or would you then migrate to the recreational marijuana, or would your business model stay as a medical marijuana? And help me with the difference.
Go ahead.
So Beacon Compassion is 100% focused on patients' access to medicine. And clearly there are a couple of ballot drive processes going on now to get legalization on the table and on the ballot in 2016. Remains to be seen, A, will it make it to the ballot, and B, will it pass? Right? But let's assume for a moment that it does.
That's where I'm going,
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's assume for a moment that it does. Right now, we have no plans to do anything other than medical. There is so much work for us to do over the next 2 years to get up and running and functioning to be able to serve patients, that we're not able even to think about 3 years from now. We're focused on the next 2 years and building out, taking care of EPA issues, new construction on a building, all the town permitting work and things that we need to do, and the state processes to finish in order to just open our doors, right? So there's a lot of work there.
Sure, but as a business, though, you have to look at opportunities and threats, and this is clearly a threat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So, SWOT analysis,
Yeah.
all of that's been done, right? We have no plans at this point in time to do anything with recreational. If and when that happens, our plan would be to evaluate the state of that, work with our host community, and come up with what the right answer to that is. The right answer to that may be yes to proceed, no to stay medical, but we view that as a collaborative discussion. And to speak to town protection on this issue, meaning that if you approve this now, are you somehow approving legalization, or does it go into legalization once that happens? And the short answer to that is no. Right in your town bylaw, it speaks to the Humanitarian Act and this specific medical program. And that's right in your existing bylaw today, which we are required, of course, to adhere to. And so,
can anyone confirm that? Because that's new to me.
yeah, it speaks to the medical. It speaks to all the terms and conditions as it relates to the medical marijuana
You're talking
program.
about the zoning bylaw.
I'm talking about the bylaw associated with this, right?
Okay.
Yeah. The actual medical marijuana.
So it's not the town bylaws.
It's
It's a zoning bylaw.
It's a zoning bylaw from the town, right? So when the group got together to determine where the right place was to put this, and all the right requirements around that, the setbacks, the size, it was clearly articulated, no smaller than 2,500 square feet. I think 25,000 combined or 30,000 combined was the maximum size. All of those criteria. The actual bylaw speaks to the medical program, which means we have no vehicle in lieu of the town putting something in place to make that switch anyhow, which is another reason why it's out there. We understand that it's out there, but our focus is squarely right here. And to serve patients, and there is a huge need for that, regardless of whether or not, to answer your question, even if we had does the medical go out and the recreational now take over?
If recreational came in, what would that look like? I have no idea.
Right.
There still would be a robust medical program,
Absolutely.
though, regardless of whether recreation gets approved. There are still patients. There are some states, like, for example, Colorado has legalization and the medical program. There are state requirements. There's some medications that the recreational cannot sell. It's only for medical. On the medical program, you're not taxed. But a recreational, you will. So the programs are completely different in regards to both, and it's a matter, just because it goes, if in the event recreational moves forward, this does not mean that, we have a dispensary, we can just switch it over to medical. We would, if that were the case, and if that were the route that collectively as a town would like to move forward, that's a conversation, but it would not be an automatic switch.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I just have a question.
Sure.
So this means that if the recreational marijuana passes,
Mm-hmm.
so that's available, does that mean that there would be no longer a need for a medical marijuana card and a medical marijuana recommendation from a doctor if it's recreational anyway?
If you're still involved in the medical program, that's still the process would remain the same. We don't have any, notice on what will happen.
Why would you need a medical marijuana card if you can get marijuana on a street or from a storefront?
Well, so I could go ahead and take that. I've spent a fair amount of time in Colorado looking at both programs, and both are very healthy programs. I mean, we see the tax revenue that's being generated and all that, and given back to the communities, but they coexist. And so some dispensaries in Colorado, and again, remains to be seen how this plays out in Massachusetts. And this is not Colorado, so we can look to that for some examples of things, but neither of us in here, in any way, shape, or form, suggesting that we try to do what Colorado's doing here in Foxborough, right? But so in some dispensaries, you go inside, and they have a separate entrance for medical and a separate entrance for adult use, okay, or recreational. Some are dedicated to just recreational, and some are dedicated to just medicinal as well. And so there are different different ways to administer the medication, okay, the medicine, for a patient. There are different strains. There are different things that are done with that medicine specifically for patients that are not needed on the recreational side, or that aren't necessary on the recreational side. And so there is still a need for both. This program with the state, if indeed recreational or adult use passes, does not supplement or take over the existing medical marijuana law, that stays, and that operates on its own, either by itself or in conjunction with adult use or recreational use. So there is a strong community for both patients and for adult recreational use. And as Rena had indicated, in Colorado, there is I think it's a 25% tax on the recreational side of the house. And on the medicinal side, of course, there is no tax due to the medical nature of it. Did that answer your question?
Sort of. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a bunch, but if others want to go, you can come back to me.
So in your updated presentation, it says that you're going to be offering educational services. Two parts to this question. What form of education and what type of education are you proposing?
So a number of different avenues there. So education is going to come in all types of formats. So there will be a space dedicated in the facility itself with educational materials. Our website will be full of all of that from an electronic perspective. And then the plan is also to hold educational sessions, right? To hold informational sessions for patients and even the community to get educated and to learn more and to understand more as it relates to conditional information, as it relates to science and medical information, and there's just a bevy of all of this coming in, since this, medical marijuana has been around for 10 plus years in other states, so this isn't anything new. So all of this information, we'll be holding sessions. We'll be, doing reach out to patients. When patients come in, certainly for the first time, we go through a registration and an education aspect of things, and then we help them with their purchase. And in subsequent visits as well. So education materials will be in the facility, it'll be on our website, and we'll also be holding seminars and sessions, how-tos, instructional, because there is, as the gentleman indicated earlier, there's a huge amount of information here, and really the two tenets of this effort are really squarely in education and perception. They really, truly are. And we find that, unfortunately, the amount of data that you have to go through to educate yourself to get to the place where I personally am at, because I've spent so much time doing the work, and others, it takes a bit of time to get there, and it does take a bit of knowledge and and time spent working on that. And then of course the perception. We're still working through the perception issues, but it's heavily focused on education, because that's one of the main barriers to some additional levels of acceptance.
One other question. How many employees do you propose to have on staff on a daily basis? That'll be in the facility full-time?
Yeah, it will be, in and out, the number's probably around 10. Around that number. It's probably 15 or 20 total employees, and as we rotate out through a 6 or 7 day work schedule, I would say it's probably anywhere from 6 to 10, somewhere in that number, probably closer to 8 to 10, but I would say 10 on the high side.
So 6 to 10 employees. In your proposed plan, you're only proposing 11 parking spots that you can fit on the site, so that poses an issue.
Well, so we have we've got to do some work there on the site, some additional work on the site. We haven't completely done all.
I understand you haven't gotten to that point,
right.
But Chief O'Leary's point with traffic concerns, you know, obviously that is a big concern of ours, public safety.
So can I speak to that? Is it appropriate to speak to that at this point? Sure. Okay. So we fully intend to and would expect that you would require us to do a traffic study in this, you know, for this facility, look at the ingress and egress points, understand traffic flow, understand where the issues are or potential issues are from a traffic perspective. But, you know, upon opening our doors, we expect somewhere in the vicinity of 50 to 100 patient visits per day. So factoring in, you know, an additional 50 to 100 stops or visits, you know, per day to the overall traffic along Route 1 and on North Street, you know, I haven't seen the data, but I suspect it's a marginal, if any, impact, you know, to that. But of course, we need to work through, you know, traffic and safety as well. The other thing that I don't believe is in the packet, but we wanted to speak to, it's something that we did for the town of Framingham because we were on, we're right on, the location is right on the corner of Route 9 and 126. Very high traffic. In that case, about 55,000 cars pass through there on a daily basis. And like that corner, anytime you have an intersection, there's accidents, right? I mean, there isn't. This is spoken to residents in the neighborhood about the history of some accidents, you know, at this corner. Although I do believe the general sentiment is things have gotten better with some changes that have been made. But what we offered, and it was very well received to the town of Framingham, and we would make the same offer to the town of Foxborough, would be to point one or more cameras at that intersection and make that camera feed available to police and traffic and public safety for being able to have real-time eyes on situations, to be able to go back and play back accident issues or something that's taken place, you know, at that intersection. And so that would be something that we would certainly offer, you know, to the town as well, to give some exposure where you may not have it today.
Can I just add? Your facility, the location you have in Framingham, what is that like on a strip mall with, you know, what's the parking situation in that?
So that's a standalone facility. So it's a standalone building. It'd be about 4,500 square feet. There is roughly approximately 20, somewhere in the number of about 20 spots, parking spots in that location.
Yeah, because speaking to Dave's point where the diagram shows, I thought it was 10 parking spaces, it's 11, it might be 11. And with your employees and stuff like that, and you figure if you have what did you say, 100 visits a day?
Anywhere between 50 and 100, correct.
So that's 10 an hour, maybe?
Right.
Okay. We have a problem as it is on North Street. We have parking signs that say no parking, no standing, you know, parking. Yeah. So you can't park
correct
on North Street.
Right.
So that's one of the concerns that we have, the traffic. We have a very serious traffic situation there. Made worse by events at the stadium, you know, granted, but also it's pretty bad, you know, in regard to traffic. So that's one of the concerns that Chief O'Leary and the selectmen do have.
Understand, and I understand and respect that. It was either in a bullet, and it may be in this presentation as well, in a bullet in the presentation that we offered, but or performed on Wednesday. Our plan, and we have engaged the chief to sit down and have some discussions if we're afforded that opportunity moving forward. But is to, you know, look at the use of details at the beginning of this to alleviate any concerns that you may have along the lines of traffic, parking, and you know, we've heard the concern of loitering and, you know, and all of that. We take all of this very, very seriously, and so our response to that is, in addition to all of the other things that we're doing, we have no issue with contracting for detail work until the time that we all feel comfortable that we either didn't experience the issues that we thought we might experience, or that we've got to a point where everything's understood and is working fine and is working well. So we plan to offer that as well, and to the town in order to alleviate any additional concerns in that space that you might have.
I just have another question. If the Board of Selectmen votes to support this, your company, down the road, if you decide to sell, what happens at that point?
It's
do you
a non-
sell without? Do you have to? Do the Selectmen have to approve the sale with the change of ownership, or what are the regulations? Are there any regulations?
This is a nonprofit, or not-for-profit, so there is no ownership. So we are prohibited from selling. The license is attached to the location and to the entity. If either of those two things change, there is then it's null and void. We could don't get me wrong. We could apply for another location and move if we needed to, but if there is no opportunity to sell the company.
But you could also bring in new executives, new board members, gradually replacing the originals.
Absolutely.
And so the town of Foxborough at that point would have no recourse. I mean, no input as to the approval of the people who are taking the place. Right now, when you have a liquor license,
correct.
Right. If there's a change in the ownership or a change in the board, you have to come before
correct.
the Board of Selectmen,
right.
and we vote yes. Okay, we approve that.
Correct.
But with your situation, doesn't sound like that would be the case.
There's nothing preventing us from doing that together. Right. So we'd be more than happy to put something into, if the host community agreement is the right vehicle for that or something else, we'd be more than happy to put something in place that says any board, any management change needs to come before this board and be approved before it happens. More than happy to do that.
But how legally binding would that be?
Oh, well, I think we can make it very legally binding.
The host
yes.
agreement is but it's actually something that's actually been tested in other communities. So
correct. Yep.
Yep. Where are we as of today with state regulations, rules on medical marijuana?
Yeah. So, so despite some of the comments that I've heard, the regulations have been in place since 2012. Okay, or 2013. So it was voted in 2012, 2013. The regulations were promulgated at that point. 52 pages. This is the primary reason that Rena and I decided to get involved in this industry. One of the primary reasons was because of the extent and the comprehensive nature of the regulations in the state of Massachusetts, which represent one of the most, if not the most, heavily regulated medical marijuana programs in the entire country today, and over half of the country has these programs. So the only thing that's going to happen moving forward, in my opinion, and any discussion around what other, because I heard this in one of the last meetings, is, you know, there's still some things that aren't finalized or something along those lines. With any regulations, and we all know this that have been in regulated industries and business, which I've been in 15 plus years, is regulations modify and change. They tend to get more restrictive over time. That's where we see any changes coming over the next several years in the medical marijuana program, is identifying any areas that need to be tightened up, that need to be more restrictive. Things like, you know, the edible market and things like that. So you see, you know, information out of Colorado along, you know, some of the issues that they're having with packaging and things like that. We plan to not go through a process of learning, okay, but jump right to the end game, which is very high level packaging, very transparent packaging from what it is. And even when DPH doesn't have, may or may not have, you know, that level of regulation in place today, we plan to look at the most restrictive programs and adopt those. I have 2 children that are in high school. I deal with the same issues that this gentleman, earlier gentleman from town had indicated that, you know, parents. I deal with the same issues on teen use, that every other parent in this community deals with. And so I speak to my children, I educate my children as well. So we're not again, we're not some group from Colorado or somewhere far away just coming in and dropping this into this community. We're here, we're in this community. My children attend Walpole High. My son's in the Fire Explorer program here in the town of Foxborough. So these are my issues as well, and so we take these very, very seriously, and will ensure that we do the right thing for the residents, for the patients, for our employees, and for the community.
At this point, let me say this, we're about 45 minutes past our allotted time. We did start a little late with you guys, so we're going to be at the crossroads soon. We can keep asking questions, but in fairness to 5 other people or items that are on the agenda, if there's a few more questions, get to a point where we're comfortable on voting. If not, I think we've got to extend it to a different time. Is there a hand in the back?
Is this still open for input?
Sure, yep.
Are you sure?
Yeah, why don't we listen to this and then we'll have a quick discussion. And if you could just introduce yourself, I don't know if you got here late, but introduce yourself and your address for the record.
Rachel Calabrese, 53 Cross Street. I came from the field, so I apologize. I came right here. I was waiting. You guys started doing questions, so I just wanted to. I'm going to echo a lot what Steve had said, but I have some other things I wanted to say. I'm just speaking on behalf of myself as a resident. I can understand what you do. I have a friend, I've said several times at your meetings, I have a friend who's dying of lung cancer, and I would do anything in the world for her to have no pain. I have the very low threshold of pain myself, so I understand what you're doing. My problem, or my opposition, is threefold. One is the location. We've had concert after concert, game after game, and I just can't imagine somebody who needs their medicine right now sitting in all of that traffic, or not knowing and having to wait all the way through that, or, you know, just trying to pick something up for a patient of theirs and getting stuck in that. It just doesn't seem like the best location to me. Secondly, again, I'm going to echo what Steve said. I have been walking. I mean, I talk to a lot of people on the fields and in different, my children are all through the schools, and I've asked people how they felt about this. And most of the people that I encounter, and I'm not putting a negative spin on it, just ask them how they feel, they're not comfortable with it. They're not happy, and they don't want it here. So that I wish that they could be here. They're all busy and parents, but that's kind of what I've gotten back as. So I know you've got some positive feedback, but that's what I've heard. And then thirdly, I just feel like what Mr. Keegan was saying, that this is all kind of new regulations. I know you said it's been in place since 2013, but some of the lingo or some of the wording I'm hearing is, if recreational marijuana gets on the ballot and is approved, you're saying right now we don't think that's the case. And, you know, we're not, you know, you're not entirely sure what will happen if recreational marijuana becomes legal. I can't imagine someone who needs medical marijuana going, if it's so hard to get a card for medical marijuana, then why would anybody go through all those leaps and bounds to do it if it was available for recreation? I just think there's too much possibility, too much questions, and I love this town. I really just don't want to see it be a guinea pig to what's happening right now. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Rachel. So we can continue this, or are there any burning questions that would have, if you're quick, Janet.
Okay.
Thanks.
Janet Kennedy, Cocasset Street. I went to a couple of meetings and things, and my whole thing is, if someone needs it medically, I would rather have them that get clean than something out on the street, because you hear so much. And like a lot of the schools, it was on the news tonight, that some of the schools are having that knock-in. So obviously, kids are getting it the dirty if they have to be revived.
I don't think that's marijuana, though.
Yeah,
Well, it
that's
could
heroin.
be. Well, it might be whatever. But still, if someone needs it, I would rather have them have the clean marijuana than the dirty that's outside, because you don't know what's in it.
Okay.
Because
thank you.
I know, but that's how I feel. Clean is better than dirty.
All the time. So is there anyone from the board that has burning questions that would sway you, or, and we can keep asking question after question?
No, I think, you know, if we can start off in the dialogue if we're discussing this. I did a lot of work the last few days. I looked at Summit Medical down in Rhode Island. I looked at a few others, and the one thing I was left with is that, you know, I took a look at the Bellingham meeting that you were just at, and one of the gentlemen said that, you know, he viewed this as a beta test, and he was worried that the rules weren't widely understood, that that they were getting into a situation over which they had very little control. The you know, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has very little experience, and everyone worries that once you say yes to this, it is set in concrete and you own it. And I think I'm of the mind, and in a lot of ways I agree with Steve, is that Foxborough is a small town. It's a bit of a provincial town if you really want to take it to an extreme. And you know, there's a lot of things that we don't want in this town that would alter the character of the town. And I'm of the mind that I would take no action on this. You know, maybe 5-6 years from now, when this industry is a little bit more robust and the players are more widely known and there's been enough experience, I might take another look at it. But today, it's extremely nascent, and I just think it's if we open the lid of Pandora's box, good things may come from it, bad things may come from it. I just don't want to subject the town of Foxborough to the unknowns and perhaps the bad. So that's where I sit.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I've learned more about medical marijuana since July than I ever thought I would, and I have gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth on this. You know, one thing, the whole town voted, over 60% wanted medical marijuana. We said, okay, where are we going to put it? Town meeting zoned it. I think the vote was 130 to 1. Put it exactly where the town wanted it. I am not opposed whatsoever to the use of medical marijuana if it's going to comfort somebody. I believe in all that. But I really have to go with no action on this, solely because there are so many unanswered questions and it's so brand new in the state, and so I'm gonna have to go no action.
David?
I could ask questions for 2 more months on this. There's just so much information, information that are pro, information that are cons. You look at where we zoned it. Okay, we put in the zoning bylaw where it could go, but there's no local legislation. You know, how do we license it? How do we govern the dispensary, like Ginny said, like we do with liquor licenses? We're behind the curve, and I think we need to look at that, because this isn't going to go away. You know, we can vote no action, but sometime down the road, this is going to come back, and we're just going to keep constantly be a dog chasing our tail. So I think we have to start looking at some local legislation, and set some parameters going forward. But I think, you know, I would vote to continue, because I've gotten a lot of emails, both pro and con. You know, I hear what Steve's saying, I hear what Rachel's saying. They're talking to people, but where are the people? You know, why aren't they here? Why aren't they going to the meetings? I think because we zoned it where we zoned it, and they're putting it where we said they can put it, I think we should at least continue, let them have a chance for one more meeting, and see if we can get the people that it affects the most in this town, on North Street and the surrounding areas. Let them come in. They can't stand on the sidelines and let just a handful of people decide what's going to go on. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I want to hear from them, because you know, you do hear conflicting statements. You do hear, like, here's Newsweek in Time. I guarantee you, next month there's going to be conflicting articles in Newsweek in Time about the pros and cons about medical marijuana. So I would like to continue it, at least for, give these folks a chance to get out in the community, and then let the community come back and say, look, you know, we're not ready. We're not ready for it, you know, but I think no matter what happens, we need to start looking at some local legislation, because this isn't going to go away. It's going to keep coming back because of the zoning. And let's face it, it may be the best use for that site, and to finally clean out that site. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I just, like I said, I just have lots of questions and lots of conflicting information. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I just make one comment about the local regulation?
Sure.
That was the comment that I was referring to. I know I'm familiar. The state regulation has been out since 2013. I agree with you on that. It's the local regulation that is still being promulgated in cities and towns.
Local regulation meaning the Board of Health?
Yeah, Board of Health, local Board of Health, where the city of Boston, I think, is the closest to having such a regulation in place. And to my knowledge, has not become finalized at this point. So it's out there, it's in draft form, but it's not been finalized to my knowledge. So in short, that regulation is coming, but it just hasn't been fully developed yet, fully vetted. So that's in a stay tuned mode.
Thank you. And Ginny?
In reference to what Dave had mentioned about the zoning, the town meeting did vote a zoning area from North Street to Pine Street. But at the time at town meeting, when the warrant article came up, it was explained to the members of the town meeting that, you know, it's suggested that we do designate an area, because if an area is not designated, it could go any place in town. So yes, maybe town meeting did vote for the zone, to put a zone, but that was to protect themselves from it going any other place. So you can't say that people who maybe voted for that zone maybe weren't 100% inciting a marijuana dispensary in the town of Foxborough. I attended the Wednesday meeting, and I was trying to do a quick count of the people who were in attendance, and I actually came up with the idea that maybe there were more people from your group, not residents of the town of Foxborough, than actually were in attendance, maybe by one or two numbers. I know one of our, one citizen who was a proponent was there, I know that. But the other people who were there spoke against it, and there were quite a few people, and a lot of them were from the North Street area. And I have gotten emails. I have been stopped at places in the stores, Stop and Shop. I have only heard one person that I know of that is definitely for it. Another person, okay. The rest of the people I've heard say no. They do not want this in the town of Foxborough. And I was a little concerned when, at that meeting, when you have been stressing that you can only get it with a marijuana card, with the medical marijuana. And I was really concerned when Mr. Lobel told the story about how he's a resident of Massachusetts. He traveled to Oregon to visit his daughter. While he was there, he applied for a medical marijuana card. He and his daughter got them. They were given to the town. They were given by the state of Oregon. And then he comes home. Well, in my mind, that's an abuse of the medical marijuana card system in the state of Oregon. So you say to yourself, if that can happen in Oregon, what's to say it's not going to happen here? That's another thing. And then my final question, and this has been the question I've had since day one. Why Foxborough and not Walpole? You are residents of Walpole. Walpole also has an area that allows a dispensary to be sited. It's off Route 3A, I guess. 1A, I'm sorry, excuse me. So that's my question. Why Foxborough and not Walpole? If your goal is to provide compassion for residents, what difference does it make if it's in Foxborough or your hometown of Walpole? And that's my big question, and I just can't get past that. So in my mind, I would vote either no action, or if it comes up, I would do a letter of non-support. But I would, to make a pun, it's probably, I don't know, nip it in the bud. That's my.
Are we able to, it's probably not appropriate to respond to that question, or
yeah,
is it?
Just hold it. Let me just finish up. I'll
Yes,
be the
yeah.
fifth person. So, I mean, I made my initial feelings pretty public because I see what's going on with the state and the opiates and the heroin, and I'll admit I did equate it to gateway drugs. And the reason is because I asked addicts firsthand, when did you start? And they said, when I was smoking pot and the inhibitions are there and gone away, and that's how I started. And it was a progression stuff. But I give that the benefit, and I said I'll let the process continue, and reached out. I have asked repeated people, many people, if they're in favor of this in-town residents, not Sharon and not Walpole. And I'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that is for this, other than maybe they're, on the fence, or, more so ambivalent. But for the most part, what I'm hearing is there's a lot of sympathy. I mean, I've met a lot of people, and they've reached me that are using it, and it's a medicinal purpose, and they're getting a lot of benefit from it. And there's a lot of disadvantage having to drive to Salem or to wait. So I get all that. I agree with Ginny on the zoning, and I've said it before. If you don't zone for it, it can go anywhere, and nobody wants it in their backyard. So Route 1, Mass Highway, that's probably the best place. None of the discussions at the town meeting got into the depth of neighbors and residential and traffic and all that stuff. And this may sound a little disingenuous, but unfortunately, maybe unfortunately for you, you're presenting this to a civil engineer who does site plans for a living. I can't think of a worse location for this site. If you look from a bird's eye view, you're going into a building that you lose all the grandfathering because it's a different use. You have 0 setbacks to building, no landscaping, and the best you can do is 10, maybe 11 parking spots, 3 curb cuts on a horrible corner. There's been 0 time spent on site plan on this. So you look at the site plan, then you came in with the architectural drawings of what you need inside bathrooms and stuff. It just doesn't fit. You've got an L-shaped building.
And that was just a sample. That was an example.
My point is
Total example, right.
to go from where you need to get to with your staff and the visitors and the unknown of opening up the doors, and you build it, they will come. I don't know how you can get more than 2 parking spaces in addition to your staff. So you would need variances across the board, appealable variances. And I guess my overall opinion is, I was hoping that I'd hear something from the veterans or the police or the Board of Health that says, this is cutting edge, jump on it because it's good for the town. The people that I hear it from aren't necessarily living in the town, and to take a gamble or a chance on doing something for the benefit of others to come into our town at the detriment, 2 years, 5 years, there's nothing in this package that says this is a great opportunity for Foxborough. Having said that, and I'm glad it didn't get to the point where people were vilifying you for coming into our town with pot, because I don't think that's what it's about. It's a viable business. It has potential. I just don't think I can think of a, when you give zoning allowances, you look at all the sites, this is probably the worst site. And shame on the owner for letting it get to that point year after year as the gateway to our town and not doing a thing. So it's an opportunity to clean it up. Where the heck is he for the last 20 years that he couldn't have done it? But I just don't see this as the opportunity to go with, to clean up the site and give a service to Foxborough and a benefit to the community. I just don't see it. So, and again, it's not, you're good business people, I'm sure. You put the group that you put together is a little bit of everything, so maybe the pieces would fit. But looking at Bellingham, looking at Framingham, look at all the other towns, they've had the same debates, I think. The applicant got kicked out far, other ones they've been accepted. I just don't think we have the demographics to support it as Salem does, as Brockton does. It just doesn't fit. And I haven't heard that it fits from anybody in the town, other than the few people that could use it. So, a little long-winded, but that's where I am with this.
Procedurally, Jim, do we take a position? Do we vote on a position?
From the reach out that we had to council, again, the three choices, if we absolutely, you know, what I don't want to do is just drag this on month after month, and I think, Steve, you said it, there's people that need this, and there's viable sites. If we do nothing, I think you need that letter of support from either the mayor or the selectmen to get what you need as a permit, so.
Or a letter of
Or
non-opposition.
Or, yeah, so letter of non-opposition, if we do nothing, they can't go to the next step. If we give a letter of non-opposition, they can get to the next step, or obviously if we approve it, they can get to the next step.
But do we as a board vote to say we're going to take no action?
In my experience, all of our votes are in the affirmative. So we would make a motion to either approve it or a motion to take no action.
One of the three choices.
Yes. So you wouldn't vote to disapprove it. You would vote for either approval, no action.
No
or
opposition
no
or no
opposition,
action.
or we simply do nothing.
Okay.
And in fairness to the applicant, to do nothing is a little, you know, we're
No,
assigned
I
with the
think,
task,
I think
so
it's
we
fair
should
to
do it.
them, for them to know where the town stands.
Yeah.
So I suppose one thing that procedurally the board could do is if somebody could make a motion, if it didn't gain a second, then you'd have no action. If you want,
Yeah.
another option.
You guys understand that?
Mhm.
And then, of course, I mean, Dave, you're probably the one out of the five that had a different approach, is to extend it to get more information.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend extending it and extending it, but I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and don't get me wrong, I'm not for it or against it. I think we all have compassion for the people that need it. Is that the best location? Probably not. You know, I mentioned the parking spaces and looking at the site plan, and I recognize that, but there is a lot of misinformation out there, and you know, just to extend it, to have that one more meeting, and then take a vote based on some feedback from there. But if it's the board's wish to just end it right now, I mean, I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
Because I think something has to give, you know, for everybody to move forward.
Okay.
Well, can I just make sense?
Sure.
I mean, one of the things that's happened in other towns, the town of Norwood, they had two proposals. One, they gave a letter of, I believe it was non-opposition support. And the other one, they just didn't do anything. And you had mentioned that the town of Framingham has given a letter of support.
Correct.
So it's not like if this doesn't happen in the town of Foxborough, it's not like there wouldn't be any facility in a reasonable travel distance from the town of Foxborough. I mean, I don't want people to think that this is the only game in town. I mean, it's you know, there are other locations. People had said that, oh, I have to go all the way up to Salem, or I have to go all the way up to Maine. Well, possibly you'd have to go to Norwood, you'd have to go to Framingham.
Or Brockton.
Or Brockton, yeah. So, I just wanted to say that.
Can I just respond to that?
Sure.
Just very quickly.
Yep.
In response to the locations, and you are right, other communities will allow this to come in, but it is very difficult to find locations. Along that stretch of Route 1, this facility that we chose was the only building that was available. That was it.
Did that ring a bell? I mean, there's a reason that building is available. It's just a horrible
No, let me
Yeah.
actually, if I
And
can
I'm not
correct that.
challenging, but
No,
it's
no, no.
from
If
a
I could
real
correct
estate
that.
perspective.
So there were two
Okay.
properties available. The seasonal building, so
Yep.
there's medical space available there. They would not allow the use. Okay?
The owner?
Correct.
Okay.
The use was not allowed. And so this was the only other facility in the approved zone that it was. And just a couple of quick comments, if
Sure.
I may.
Yep.
I'm hearing a lot of, I'm getting, residents that are coming out and saying, no, we don't want it. Who voted for it then? Because 60% of this town's residents voted for this. And I would offer up a point, because of the two tenets that I spoke about earlier, being perception and education. I think it's challenging to get proponents to A, come out when they've already spoken with their vote, okay, to come back out again and ask them to come back out and re-support something that they've already voted for. Then to get patients to come out in their own community with the stigma that unfortunately many in this room maybe still have, is extremely challenging. And to ask somebody's mother, grandmother, sick family member to go down, you know, an industrial road 2 miles to find, a large building to go make their purchase and make them feel like they're criminals, is criminal in and of itself. This location was chosen for access and to be able to make it convenient and easy for patients and to get them out of the shadows, which unfortunately they're forced to be dealing with today. And I feel sorry for any patient in that situation today that is being pushed to industrial zones or the black market because we end up with a not in my backyard mentality. And so, you know, I with all due respect to, there's others in the area, you can go in this town and you can hit 5 different pharmacies, whether they be associated standalone pharmacies or whether they be in supermarkets and things like that, right? There's a number of pharmacies and locations. But that same patient that has cancer, rather than go to the pharmacy to get there in their town conveniently 10 minutes away, now the message that you're sending them is, don't do that. We want you to go 20, 30 minutes down the street to go get your medicine. A vote of no action or no on this is a clear message by this board to the patients in the community in this area, in the Foxborough community. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Mr. Angelo, I just want to say something. As someone who has experienced cancer in family members, multiple family members, if you have to go get medicine, you'll go where it is available. Doesn't make any difference whether you go down a road or you go to the strip mall or anything. And I don't, and you know, it's really upsetting when you almost try to put a guilt trip on what we're doing. We represent the town of Foxborough. We have, you say 60% of the town of Foxborough voted for it. Well, say 98% of the people who spoke to me are against this. That's a little higher than 60%. So you can throw percentages around anywhere, you can make percentages say anything you want. Board of Selectmen, we represent the people of Foxborough. And part of this legislation allows the community where a dispensary is proposed to say yes or to say no. And we are exercising our right under the legislation and also our responsibility to the town of Foxborough, to our citizens who have spoken to us.
Understand. And my comments were in no way, shape, or form meant to lay any guilt on this board. But the one point of clarity that I do want to make, and I think it's an important point, and then you brought the topic up, is if you have a sick family member with cancer, okay, and they need medicine, what do you do as that family member? You get in your car and you'll drive anywhere to go pick up the medicine for that patient, for your family member, correct?
Right.
Okay. In this program, that can't be done. The patient themselves has to come in for the medicine.
Yes, but there's
No, you have a form. There's a caregiver form.
There's 300 caregivers in the entire state of Massachusetts.
No, there's a form where you can become the caregiver and you can deliver this.
So we can deliver patient medicine, absolutely, but you can't go as a normal pharmacy transaction. If I have a family member that needs a prescription, I'm going to go pick up the prescription for that family member. Could be in bed, could be incapacitated. I can go get that for them. In this particular capacity, if that happens, I can't because that patient has to physically go there. Now, if they haven't designated a caregiver, which takes several months to get that in place, then a family member can go do that, or they can arrange for a delivery. But that doesn't happen, overnight and that sort of thing. So it's just a minor point that I would just want to make. It is very, very different.
Well, at that point, hospice would kick in.
We're getting a little off track of the, because honestly, there's arguments that we can go back on. The reason a lot of it is because it's not legal, so that is roadblocks in itself. So it keeps keep peeling back the onion, and we can be here all night, so.
Like I said,
I understand what you're
I
saying.
can ask questions.
Oh, yeah, it can go on forever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
If you'd
A lot
like,
of
I can make a
education here.
motion.
yeah, so unless anyone has any earth-shattering revelations that's gonna change anyone's opinion, let's have a motion from somebody in the affirmative.
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen take the position of no action regarding the Beacon Compassion Center's application for a medical marijuana dispensary on North Street in Washington.
So the motion to take no action is made, seconded.
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion on the motion? So if this motion passes, in accordance with the state, one of the items is no action.
Right.
Any more discussion?
So, no action is, they can't proceed with this location?
They can't, well, we took no action. If they want to come in tomorrow with a different location, or a different site plan, or a different group, or whatever, we're only looking in front of us on this one item tonight. Correct, Bill?
That's right.
But this ends this application then?
This application would
In regard
be
to this.
essentially placed into no status mode.
Any more discussion?
They could not proceed to the next level of consideration.
Further discussion on the motion?
So what was the
Seconded?
motion again?
Motion was made to take no action.
Okay.
All those in favor? Can't see your hand. Oh, motion carries 5-0. And, sorry it didn't work out for you, but I appreciate the professionalism.
Thank you.
And thank you. And Mr. Cabral, again, my comments were not to elicit any guilt on your part. That wasn't the intent behind that.
It's a tough topic.
It is,
You're fighting for
absolutely.
patience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we've been here since 6:30. Do you guys need a quick break, or do you want to keep going?
I wouldn't mind a quick good.
I apologize. 5 minutes. We'll be back at 5 of 9. Point made, Chief.
Touche.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Continuing the September 22nd Board of Selectmen meeting. Took a little bit of a break. The next item on the agenda, 7:30, is the Chief O'Leary, Officer Hoffman discussion on the North Grove Street traffic study. And thank you for your patience. We were running a little late.
Good evening. I was contacted several months ago by Ms. Capola. She had heard from a resident about a traffic situation, and I detailed an assignment to different shifts at different times to check North Grove Street in particular. Thankfully, some of my staff are talented, and they go above and beyond an analysis of a problem and not just put a temporary fix by certain radar patrols. And Officer Hoffman brought to my attention the work that he had done on North Grove Street to give not just enforcement, but a better picture of traffic. So I'd like to turn the presentation about North Grove Street in particular for him to report to the board, and then he'll probably fill us in on some of the other studies that he's been doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. So what you're gonna get is, this is the North Grove study. We're not gonna go through, obviously, every single number on here, but we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes. Hopefully, we'll go over all this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.
If you don't mind, I'm actually gonna stand. You guys should all have a paper clip on it, you guys can just pull that off. There's 2 pages on the back. That's gonna be an actual volume study. So what this traffic device does, it not only calculates how many vehicles have traveled over the strip that's laid out across the road, but it can also determine the speed of those vehicles and what type of vehicles they are, i.e. Cars, trucks, buses, tractor trailers, all that other stuff. But today we're going to focus on the volume and the speed.
Pat, are we looking at page 1 with the pink highlights?
Yeah, so if you put page 1 to the left, page 2 to the right, that's going to give you a general overview of when we conducted this study over a number of different days. Now, looking back to the actual pamphlet, so I figure if you lay that out, that'll be able to show you basically the days that we've conducted that. But going back to the actual pamphlet, this would be day 1, broken down by speed and time in hours of increments, of 1 hour increments.
Excuse me, how can you determine the speed on this?
Okay. There's 2 tubes that go across the road. They're pre-measured out. When one tube gets hit, it sends a pulse through the tube, and it goes back to the machine. When the second tube gets hit, it sends another pulse. We have software that calculates the 2 pulses and determines what the speed of the vehicle is.
Okay, but the speed is not on this sheet.
The speed is on this sheet.
It is?
So if you look at, for instance, let's look at 12 o'clock, 12 p.m., right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see the first number is a 7 right next to that.
Yeah.
Okay. What that is that's 7 vehicles. That's 7 vehicles. On the top, you'll notice 1 and 15. That's 1 to 15 miles per hour.
Oh, okay.
All right. So if we go over to the next bracket, it's 16 to 20 miles an hour. Okay. And you'll see that 8 vehicles were recorded for that particular day. So we can break it down by days and by hours, so that way we can properly address an issue if there is in fact an issue at that time. Okay. And the idea is to be able to post up an officer if an officer is needed for a selective traffic enforcement. So if we can see maybe 10 vehicles exceeding the speed limit by a certain mile per hour, we know that's probably a good spot to post up.
Okay. And what is the speed limit on North Grove Street?
It's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Now, I will tell you, that under 9018, where the assessments for the fines for speed are calculated, it lists the minimum assessment at $50 and then a $50 head surcharge fee, and then $5 on top of that. That counts for the first 10 miles over the speed limit, which means for the first 10 miles over the speed limit, your citation is $105. After that, every mile an hour after that is $10 on top of that. So if you're going 20 miles an hour, it's $205. So generally what we see is police departments throughout Massachusetts don't start citing individuals until they reach that 10-mile-an-hour over the speed limit. Mm-hmm. Okay? It doesn't mean you can't. Some courts frown upon it, though. Okay? So that's just a breakdown of individual days. And as you go through the packet, you'll notice the date up top, and you'll go through each and every day, and you can kind of just get an overview of what the actual speed is on the road. If you go to the last page of the packet, this is an overview on the bottom. So the very last page. Okay, so on the very last page, there's a few different numbers here. The one that's very important to us is the 85th percentile. Okay, you hear about this being talked about a lot. It's generally how they determine, there's a bunch of factors that go into determine proper speed limits and posting of speed limit signs, but the 85th percentile holds the most weight in the eyes of the Mass DOT, who have to approve all signage prior to it being posted up. 85th percentile here, it says 35 miles per hour. I know it is supposed to 30, so if you guys were ever to reconsider trying to change the signage, just realize at this time, this survey shows that it's a 85th percentile is 35 miles per hour. The 85th percentile means that 85% of the vehicles that traveled during the course of this survey were traveling 35 miles an hour or under. Okay? If you go down a little bit lower, it says number of vehicles traveling over 40 miles per hour. It lists 123 vehicles were traveling over 40 miles per hour throughout the course of this survey. I want to state that's out of 13,330 vehicles recorded. That's 0.9% traveling over 40 miles an hour, which would be our citable zone. Going through every single day and looking at every single time, I had a discussion with the chief on what would be an appropriate time to deploy officers at basically at a directed patrol. So normally a directed patrol is about an hour long. It would be at a certain time, and your whole purpose is to stop people for speeding. And I had given, and again, this is just my opinion, but I had said a good theory is the 10 and 10 rule. So if you have 10 vehicles traveling over 10 miles an hour in a given hour, that's probably a good spot to set up so we can actually affect, some motor vehicle stops. Going through this, there was no vehicles in that type of grouping, in that type of setting. Doesn't mean vehicles weren't speeding. It doesn't mean some of the vehicles weren't exceeding the speed limit by a significant amount. But what it means is that there was nothing for us to pinpoint on an exact time at which point we should be posting up and dedicating an officer to that area. And I need to stress that's important for a very small town such as Foxborough. We don't necessarily have all the resources all the time to be posting up here and there. Generally, we have 3 to 4 officers working on a patrol shift. There are 3 sectors assigned in our town, north, south, and east. If we do pull an officer to post up on a road, that sector is then effectively not being patrolled. Any questions so far?
Yeah, Pat, what
No
this,
west?
There is no west, no.
So what this is saying, Pat, is that, the data indicates that there's not a chronic problem.
That's correct.
That stretch of road.
And it doesn't, and by no means does it mean that you shouldn't be patrolling that area. All our cruisers are equipped with what's called rolling radar. They can detect the speed of an oncoming vehicle as the cruiser's moving. So oftentimes when I'm patrolling on the 4 to 12 shift, I'm moving around. That radar's going. I'm not only looking for speeding issues though. I might be looking for other violations, whether it be marked lanes or other things like that. And then you're also keeping an eye on the houses, the buildings. You got to make sure that people aren't breaking in. We have the clothing receptacles down at the church. Those were getting broken in left and right for a while, and those were meant for the people that needed them. So.
But I mean, apart from some outliers, which there are.
Yes, and you'll always see outliers on a road.
Okay, no, that's a good report.
And don't get me wrong, if the outlier was constant, one person going 60 miles an hour, you might be tempted to sit on that road for that hour.
What other roads around Foxborough have you done this on?
I did Union Street, Fales Place. I've done North Street. I'd like to do another one on North Street on the opposite end, though. Summer Street and Oak Street. And I think that's it.
Okay.
Not all of them are as lengthy as this. I actually think it's not really necessary to do it this long.
And this section, is this from South Street to 106 or from 106?
So, I think you're talking about placement of it?
Yeah, I mean, North Grove.
Yes, North Grove connects South Street to Green Street, which is 106.
Right.
When you're placing the strip, I mean, there's nothing to say where I have to place it. I try to find the spot that's going to be the fastest, the straightaway, where I think that it's going to be.
I drive that twice a day going to work. I've never seen the strip, so must be a good location for the strip.
Well, it's up now.
So you're the guy in the 41 to 45
no, I mean, I
mile.
drive it every day for the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's about this wide. It's a pre-measured strip, so it eliminates any officer error.
There you go.
that might
Sure,
occur.
science will catch up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Officer Hoffman, would you say that North Grove Street is pretty within the norms? I mean, it's not, there's not a great amount of speeding and there's not a great amount of, I mean, there's traffic
always
going down the street,
Right.
but it's not, it's not as excessive as someone might think.
Right, and I'm not gonna, you know, again, there's speed, there's speed on every street, but there's nothing to indicate that there's a time in which an officer needs to be down there for an allotted period of time to patrol that area, and especially when it takes
Scattered
away.
throughout the day, basically.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
And we did end up putting officers down there. We actually had 8 assigned shifts. I shouldn't say shifts, but 8 assigned directed traffic patrols down there. And there wasn't much in the way of citations being issued at that point. But and there were various times of the day, midnight shifts, day shift, and 4 to 12 shift. I actually was down there twice on a directed patrol for about an hour to an hour and a half long.
But thank you for, it seems like the police department has devoted a good amount of time to doing this study. And thank you, because I'm sure the residents are thanking you for the department to be paying attention to their concerns.
Well, I like to remind people that majority of the department are actually residents themselves. I myself live in town, have grown up in town, so we do have a vested interest in making sure the public's safe at large. You know, so.
But thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
One quick question. You had
Yeah.
mentioned Falls Place?
Bales Place, yes, that's
Place,
correct.
yeah. So that was one of the roads that we put no through traffic. That one coming up to Gilmore and then across.
I've spent some time on it.
I think
it was
yesterday I saw you?
me. It was yeah.
Okay. So I reached out to the residents when they asked for those signs. We approved it with kind of a soft condition that they come back to us in the fall to kind of report how it's going. So I think corresponding a little bit on the patrols out there, but we're going to have them back in front of us probably sometime in October to say, all right, the signs are there now. Are they working? Did we waste our time? Is it effective? Any indication at this point? Only because I saw you out there the other day with some of the residents.
Whether or not they're effective. Well, the issue that we're running into is whether or not they're actually enforceable. As far as I can tell, I don't know any of chapter and section that would allow us to enforce that signage. Number 2, I have talked to some. I was on that street dedicated for, again, an hour.
Okay.
On that street. That was a directed patrol.
Yeah.
We had an officer assigned there, myself, and an officer assigned at the center of town. So, again, 2 out of the 3 officers were assigned to directed patrols at that time. In talking to some of the people that I had actually stopped, they were residents living on Granite South Street. One was on Union Street, and they were trying to get home. Now, if it turns out that the sign is enforceable, it simply says no through way. That would mean to anyone who is not just going home, going to that immediate street. And then you get into the issue of enforcement. Are you going to dedicate an officer there every day between the hours of 4 and 6?
Yeah, and this is helpful to hear because, and I'm not sure exactly what precipitated this study, but I know there's some complaints that why aren't the police doing, everyone's speeding and stuff. So before we start putting up signs, it's helpful for us, if you put an officer there, it is taking somebody from a different section for.
And I would say there is an issue. Okay, cars are going through there.
Yeah.
However, from the standpoint of a police department, we have to address things legally. They can't just be stopped for no reason. We can't give a citation for no reason. And if we do, we put ourselves at jeopardy and we put the town at liable. So there is an issue. I've noticed there is cars going through there. I have the survey over here right now. I think at the most there was 38, 40 cars at one time in an hour period that went through there. And that's a lot of cars for a small street like that. I'll agree. However, and I had said this to the resident, I said, the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about is it's the center of town. It's not keeping up with the traffic on Main Street. And you can close off those streets all you want. You're just going to divert it. Next thing you know, they're going to go Garfield to Baker.
Yeah.
And then same things on the other side. Central Street, to Bassett, to Carpenter, and then to South.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we put it as a trial mode, and that's why I'm trying to get some input, because.
But and I can't stress enough that the legality of the signs, it makes it difficult for us if we can't enforce that sign, because not everyone knows that. And the conversation that I had with that resident that day was actually in regards to her stepping out into traffic trying to slow cars down.
Yeah.
We received a call on that again tonight, and I had talked to her. I said, I had a great day that day, but nothing would make me more upset than having to come down here and basically talk to you in regards to getting hit by a motor vehicle. Yeah. It could end up tragic. And then most of our jobs also are educating. I asked her, do you know what the speed limit is on this road? And she didn't know. It's a 30 by statute. The vehicle that she was telling to slow down was going 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting. All right, thank you, officer.
All right, thank you guys. I
Thanks for
appreciate
the
it.
time. Thank you, officer.
He's right, the elephant in the room is
It's good to have data, though.
Yeah.
Okay, next up on the town manager recommendation for salary adjustment. If you remember, this was on our.
Town warrant.
This is the,
Oh, I'm sorry, town warrant, sorry.
Oh.
So we should have an Excel spreadsheet with all the different warrants on it, right?
Yes. Looks like this.
I'll find it.
All right.
Borrow mine.
I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this list, just per your request, we're trying to keep a draft document live and floating in front of you. And this time you'll see that some new things are being presented, specifically items 7 through 11. These are potential, with the idea of a special town meeting in February, these are potential items. One of them is the long-promised personnel bylaw rewrite we're working on. And then there are 3 contracts that we're hoping to settle in the coming months: steelworkers, police, and library. And then number 11, we have proposed for further discussion with this board, the removal of the police chief position from civil service.
Okay.
So those are the things that have been added to this list since you last saw it. We intend to come to you maybe once a month with some updates. And again, as language becomes available, it gets vetted through this board, through town council, and then to the AdCom once you send it along.
Okay. So the dates to get closure, AdCom, set the town meeting, and what are we looking for?
Well, we're actually going to talk about that tomorrow. We're trying to get a group together to find out what's the best date. It was somewhat sensitized to the information coming back on the town hall project. I did an update show for the community today, and Bill Euclid was my guest of the show. He indicated that he's looking around the middle part of February to have everything ready. So we're gonna try and get a group together to talk about that, including Randy, myself, Bob Cutler, the moderator, and of course Bill Euclid, because those are the key players in this meeting. The chairman of the finance committee, AdCom rather. So. So we'll try and figure this out, and then make a recommendation to you. We'll have them to you by the next meeting.
So Bill thinks he'll have all the bids in by middle of February?
Yeah, he hopes to have everything ready for us by the middle of February. They're getting close.
So that's, what's that, like fees middle of February, we're not gonna be able to have a special town meeting in February. So you're looking at early March.
Yeah, you would think if he's going to just be ready by then, but that's what we need clarification on, because he said he'll have everything ready by mid-February. But that means he still has to get in front of the AdCom and everybody else.
You know, you're looking at early March, probably at the earliest. You know, I mean, regular
Which
town
then begs the
meetings in
question:
May.
do we wait to May?
I talked to Bill a while back and I said, you're really, because they're in the middle of budget reviews, at that point. And one thing this board and other boards have said, we won't crush AdCom with specials, you know, right on the threshold of an annual.
Right.
And if this gets postponed anyway, that will be the case.
Right, and I think the key point as to why they want to get it done, if it's successful and the community votes to support it, they want to get going during the good months of April and May,
Yep.
as opposed to waiting for a vote and then gearing up after that. So I think
When I talked to Bill, he said that he may have the information as soon as New Year's.
Okay.
And that'll give him a chance to digest it, and then it'll still give a chance for AdCom to fully vet it in time for a late February special.
Right.
So this will probably be your topic tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be a discussion tomorrow, and we also be mindful of the fact that we're also looking at a presidential primary discussion in, was it March? Or
March
election
1st.
March 1st.
Mhm.
So I really don't want to bump Bob Cutler's crew up against that as well, so we want to be mindful of that. So we've got a couple challenges to figure out.
Yeah. I just want to be cognizant of, you know, the tail wagging the dog. I know
Right.
everyone's focusing on town hall, but there are contracts, there are other articles in there.
Right.
If you push it out too far, it gets into May,
Yeah.
town
Right.
meeting.
Exactly.
You know, maybe we set the date, push for the town hall to be ready by that time. If it's not, that gets pushed to May.
Yeah.
Rather than throwing out everything
yeah.
else because
Yeah,
that's not there.
That's a good
Well, what
point.
do we decide, Jim, and stay with like an early December town meeting for some of these issues?
Yeah.
Expecting that it may not be ready for February and just push it to May anyway.
Yeah. So you're gonna have some of those discussions tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation tomorrow and see where we go. Because my understanding, and maybe I misunderstood him, but I specifically asked, I said, we're gonna be ready, when are we gonna be ready for this? And the answer was mid-February. So, I'm assuming that was the town meeting date that he was talking about, but we'll clarify that tomorrow.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Do you anticipate this list to grow any larger?
Once we have a date, are going to send an email around to our department heads to ask if anybody is recommending any warrant articles for a special town meeting that their boards or
Yeah, planning
committees
board
we might not be aware of. So I would assume that this will grow. I don't think it will
Yeah,
grow.
we'll try to limit that, because
Right.
we don't want it to grow much beyond what you have here. Because
It's hard to have a
special-
close date if we don't know when
Yeah,
the
exactly.
town meeting date is too.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, that's why we need to get that date finalized. Okay.
All right, next on the agenda was town manager recommendation for salary adjustment for finance director. This was on our agenda last time. We asked it to be shelved for a little more consideration on the review process and a little more in-depth reporting back to us on the recommendation.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My position on this is that I've gone through my review process with Randy, and this is really my first one that we officially have done. So, I've made the recommendation. Actually, he did very well in his evaluation, and he did receive a highly favorable performance grade. There are some things that we've talked about that we're going to continue to work on, and he's fully aware of those, and was actually very cooperative in the process. We identified those issues that we think that need improvement, and spent quite a bit of time on those. So I think by and large he does a terrific job as a finance director. None of us are perfect. We understand that, and that. By the same token, I think we're very fortunate as a town to have a guy of his talent to do this job. And it's a I find that he's put his work and along with the work of many people involved, and I know he'd be the first person to tell you that we've put ourselves in a pretty good position to be in a pretty good financial position when we manage our finances as good as anybody. So I think, and while I know managing the finances goes beyond other things too, we're working with everybody around him, working with all the other departments. Those are all things we're working on to try and further improve upon, and just want everybody to be aware of that. So I am recommending, in light of all those points, that he receive a step increase of 2.5%.
Okay, thank you. Discussion from the board?
Bill, just, that's 2.5%, it is from where to where?
It's from effective July 1st.
No, in whole dollars.
In whole dollars, I don't have that. $3,100.
$3,100, okay. This would be effective retroactively to July 1st?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I will note that, in fairness to Randy, that his evaluation was done during the month of July, but we got so caught up in so many different things, I couldn't get on the agenda until September. So, in fairness to him, I just didn't want him to take the weight on that issue. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. It's done in July. Why did it get to us in September?
We had a lot of stuff going on in August, so I just didn't get it on there. So.
Any more discussion?
So it's a 2.5 plus the cost of living.
Yeah, the cost of living went to everyone, other than, of course, the contract folks that are still negotiating their contracts. Anybody who's still negotiating is still in that position, but all the non-union employees got the 2% adjustment.
But you used the word step increase. What step is this?
He's actually on a step scale.
Yeah.
Which his salary is based on a step system, just as many people are now.
Right.
I don't think I'm on a step system, but
no, you're not.
No, I don't think I was. And then.
No, my question is he maxing out on the step scale that he?
No.
That he's on?
No.
Okay.
There's still.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So there's room for growth.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you looked at comparable? They always do the 12 surrounding towns to see where this fits in with his peers.
We're actually doing a fairly significant widespread survey of that right now, so I don't have that information finalized yet, but it's, in fact, I reached out to that person, that consultant today, to try to find out where we are.
I've seen a little bit. It's on the good end for Randy.
That's right.
Compared to some towns that I saw.
No, just I mean, I've worked with Randy for years now, and we are very fortunate that we have his skill set and his dedication in town. Randy was always an advocate of the advisory committee. He's an advocate of public meetings. And the one thing is, for a small town like this, it would be easy to let things drift. It's a tight operation. It's getting tighter. And again, I'm just so glad he's part of the team.
Further discussion?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go first.
No, well, okay. No, I was just, I realized that it's the function of the town manager to make the evaluations and then present his recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. And then it was, just to recap, it was asked to have a little bit more information in regard to how the evaluation was done and what was covered in the evaluation. So we were given that information, and I must say it was very, very interesting. It's not just you writing checks and adding up columns. It's, there's quite a bit to the job description, and I thought it was a very interesting, good evaluation, and so I rely on your recommendation of the 2.5%. So I'm satisfied with that. All my questions were answered, and I was pretty satisfied with that.
Thank you.
So when it comes to dollars and cents, I think our credit rating and what Randy does is top notch.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my concerns were some of the other functions, the interaction with some of the town hall staff, and you and I had discussions.
And we
about
talked
that.
about that as well. It was part of the process.
One of the things is, I'd like to see that so okay.
Yeah, but we've had very good conversations about that.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm always cognizant of our position here. We are, with the Strong Town Managers Act, we hire you, you do the reviews, and I didn't want it, and I don't think it will be. His review is not to be happening at this table, so that's, people at home, or people said if I was going to interview him or review him, I'd ask these questions. That's not what we're here for, so.
Right.
I'm assuming you went through the whole process, the
We
good,
did.
bad, the ugly. You're coming back with a recommendation.
Absolutely.
COLA, merit. This is
Right.
what we're talking about now. Are you
Right.
looking for a formal vote on this? Or
Yeah, so
under
the
your
board needs, to-
authority?
yeah, I have to recommend to the board, and the board has to approve it.
Okay.
Okay? So that's my recommendation to the board.
Just for my rookie status here, what other positions does that apply to that you do the review and we have to approve?
Well, this one is, it's specifically stated in his contract that way, so it's treated that way. I've actually, I do reviews of the police chief, fire chief. I do the reviews of Mary Beth. I do the reviews of the members of our own personal staff. DPW director.
And all of those we have to approve?
No, not necessarily, because Randy specifically says it in his contract that you need to approve it. That's why. Because Randy technically is your employee. Okay, because you appoint Randy. I don't appoint Randy under the way the charter is structured.
We appoint them. We can't review them. That's your
Right.
job.
Right.
And then, like, the police and fire chief have separate contracts.
Yeah.
And It's a little odd in this town because
Yeah.
everyone's in different corners of
Yeah,
contracts.
it's
Another reason
it's
for
a
that
little
org chart.
It's coming. It's this close, right
Yeah,
there.
that's it. So-
Probably
Always
tomorrow,
me.
Chris.
That's it.
Right.
We're just
I've been
ready.
patiently waiting.
I know.
Any more discussion on the 2.5% recommendation from the town manager? We have a motion?
Okay, I'll move that Board of Selectmen adjust by $3,100 at 2.5% Randy Scollins's base salary effective July 1st, 2015.
I'll second.
Any discussion? The only concern I have is if we're putting a dollar amount and a percentage, if that math is not right, it's in an odd position.
Right.
Okay, let's retract the 3,100, we'll go with 2.5%.
And to be clear, he does also receive a COLA, but that was effective July 1st.
That would have already been received,
Right,
yes.
right.
So he already got the COLA.
Well, technically, he opted not to take it until he finished this process, but that was his decision.
But again, that will be
Which
retroactive.
I understand, that's
Yeah.
may have, that's retroactive as
All
well.
right, so can you make it easier if you retract that motion?
Okay, let me do it again. I'll retract that motion, and we'll try again with, I move that the Board of Selectmen increase Randy Scollins's base salary by 2.5%, retroactive to July 1st, 2015.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
No, I
Randy.
appreciate that, thank you. And thanks for the input, I appreciate discussions about it. Thank you. Thanks, Ray.
Chugging along. Foxborough Housing Trust. Now, this is on the agenda. It was taken off the agenda, it was put back on the agenda. What Foxborough did back at one of our town meetings was, by vote of town meeting, we instituted a trust where money from developers would go into, and it would go towards the goal of addressing affordable housing in town. It unfortunately has a sunset clause. Money that has been received is in the process of being received by developers. If it's not spent by July of 2016, it disappears. So we are given the charge of appointing a committee for that trust to figure out, and there's goals and objectives in the law. Probably, we have all that information that was given to us, but rather than going through all of it, we kind of did this in hand with Sharon, the planner, and the planning board. Now we're kind of under the gun. We need to get people on the committee. We need to get them the figures in front of them, and then they need to make recommendations back to the board so we can spend the money by July of 2016. Now, the planning board was going to come tonight. There was a conflict with Bill Reeder and Kevin Weinfeld. So rather than shelve it for another 2 weeks, I wanted to have a discussion with the board just to remind everybody what our role is, and the responsibility is on us right now, not the planning board.
So, and let me just say that we have reached out. I mean, we've advertised this already. We just didn't get a lot of response. I think we only had one person respond to actually serve. So I would just make the repeal again here tonight publicly, and then ask each one of you as board members to reach out to anyone you know that might be willing to serve in this capacity. It doesn't have to be you directly, but certainly anyone you know that might be a good person to serve in this capacity.
How many people are we looking for?
it was 7.
I think it was 7, yeah, a total of 7 people.
Yeah, but
So
some of them has to be like the one planning board member, one board of selectmen member, one housing authority member.
Bill, if it
So I
needs a
think
board,
it
I mean, I
was
spent a lot of
3.
time with Sharon on this through the years, so if a Board of Selectmen member needs to be on there, I'll
I
volunteer
nominate
for
John
it.
Gray.
Let me just remind everyone, so the purpose of the Foxborough Affordable Housing Trust is to provide for the creation and preservation of affordable housing in town for the benefit of low and moderate income. Foxborough Trust shall consist of 7 voting members appointed by the chair of the Board of Selectmen. The chair of the Board of Selectmen or another member of the Board of Selectmen shall serve on the trust, so that would allow John to. In addition, a member of the Planning Board, which I'm assuming we can get, a member of the Foxborough Housing Authority, which they're there, and I'm assuming we can get, and a member of the Advisory Committee.
We can get that easily.
Yep. Appointed annual by the chair of the selectmen. The remaining members of the trust shall consist of 3 citizens of the town having expertise or experience in housing finance, municipal governance, or the law shall be appointed by the chair. So it sounds like half of our board is already there, and we've got maybe one outside member that, didn't you say
well,
somebody?
we've only had one person, I
One
think,
person.
express interest, so we still need 2 more. So,
Is it up to 7, or does it have to be 7?
Shall consist of 7.
yeah, so it is 7, correct.
Okay, so our effort right now
Well,
is to
given
reach
the
out to
sunset
3.
provision on this, it sunsets when? Next July?
Next July.
Okay.
You could actually move, the board could extend it at town meeting. You
Right.
could make a motion to actually have an article to extend it,
Okay,
especially given the circumstance of what happened this past year.
that's true.
But
But
I think it
given
would
that,
be-
right now, it's a short duration assignment, so I think, I actually know a few folks that I could impel to help out.
Okay.
Because
We'd like to get it off.
I
the
know
ground.
the planning board is anxious to get this committee
Yes.
going,
Yeah.
because they want to, I mean, there is money from developers that
Yes.
is being
And
given, and
it's
they want to
substantial.
be able to,
It's a lot of
they want
money.
to be able to use it.
So,
So, let's have the planning board, either Kevin or Bill, come into us at the next meeting in 2 weeks. Maybe by then, we can get the names, the
Yeah.
applications filled out. Big picture, and I understand with the passing of Sharon, but I also understand if developers are asked to give this money, and the town says we need it, and if we can't figure out how to spend it, the money should go back to the developers, because if we need it so bad, we should be in a position to figure out how to spend
No,
it,
that's a
and
fair
not
point.
go on year after year, because we can, so.
Right.
I think if we get the right folks in the room, and that coupled with the fact that if we work hand in hand with some of the economic development goals, I think we could probably pull something together.
Yeah. Okay, you guys are all in agreement with?
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a good way to approach it.
And there's a planning board meeting this Thursday, if you want to do a memo or something for them.
And I think,
Oh, they know about it, they've been sending us the memos.
Yeah, no, I mean for what we've just.
Yeah, as an update, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
and this was put in place to help the town meet its 10% affordable goal.
So we're already there, if in fact.
No,
Well,
this was
no,
somewhat
what-
apart from that.
Yeah,
This
there's a lot of
was,
discussion on that.
In order to give, like Chestnut Green, sort of a slightly more free rein in what they build there, they had to deposit X amount of dollars for affordable housing, which they weren't able to build on
Yeah.
that side.
If the developer didn't want to do something that didn't quite make sense, but they had to, they'd give it to the town, and we could spend it to get to the same goal.
Right, so- and
It just
somewhere
gave
else
us
in
some
town, right.
flexibility.
So we could actually help the housing authority
Yeah.
in their efforts.
Yep,
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Okay.
okay. All right.
But the thing is, the money has to be spent along the spirit of the directive that you just read.
Oh, the specific guidelines on,
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
on how to spend the assets, sure.
Right.
Or what assets to put it into.
Okay.
Town manager update.
All right, thank you. It's been, as you know, it's been very hectic around here lately, but we had actually a very productive visit from Secretary Jay Ash, who's the Secretary of Economic Development for the state. He came to the Tri-Town Chamber on the 17th, and we did a 3-town visit, a ride with him on a bus to actually see the various marketing pieces for the various for the 3 towns. There is obviously a lot of work being done in all three of our towns collectively, and that's the towns of Norton, Mansfield, and Foxborough. And he was clearly, I think probably the best summary of that visit was what he said at the very end. He says, I've been around to 70 different communities around the state. And he said, of all the communities I've been in, he says, clearly you three communities have the best, have your act together. He says, this is really, really well done. We want to do a lot more, but we just need some technical guidance. We need some direction. We need some help in terms of marketing some property. And we're actually doing some things with the chamber itself, where we're putting some funding into doing a three-town video that will actually serve as a marketing tool for the three towns on a more national level, which would bring more people into the region to invest here in this region. So we're doing our part to do that. I know that there are private dollars being spent also on that same effort, but we're there to try and enhance that and promote that from our perspective as well. So the Secretary offered his assistance in any way possible, whether it come to specific projects or as a general assistance offer. But he said that, you know, basically we're doing all the right things. We just need to continue on our efforts and just continue to market ourselves as best we can.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
You had it was the three towns. It must have been with the state reps Betty Poirier, Jay.
Actually, it was just Representative well, Jay was there, of course, and then we had also and then we had the chamber executive and a few representatives from the towns. The three town managers were there.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, when I was up at the State House, and this had already been planned, what they did is towns of Norton, Mansfield, and Foxborough, they asked the people from Mass Highway to do a tour, and we did a tour, and we hit every dangerous intersection in the three towns. And what it did is we had the police. I remember we had the police, we had the town managers, we had the state reps, we had, I think we had selectmen too from the towns. But it was good because it got Mass Highway down there to actually see what we were talking about, what our emails had said, what our phone calls were about. And that made a difference, and they did do, and this is especially important because according to Roger Hill, they've gotten, the old timers are no longer at Mass Highway.
District 5, yeah.
So now it's all new people. So I was wondering, could we contact Jay and, you know, to have him put that together?
Well, I have something to talk about in a few minutes. It's about a corridor study that they're actually going to look like they're going to start looking at. So, and that comes in another update, but I'll hold on to that thought. That's a good thought. I did tape a news show today, which featured the police chief, and we talked about this last concert season and how things went up at the stadium, and some of the events have been going, how the stadium has sort of grown in a venue over the years, and how it's sort of evolved into what it is today. And this is obviously a worldwide recognition of the stadium for its different types of events that they have there. And then but we talked about all the safety measures that are taken there and all the actions that are taken by the town, and he sort of leads up that effort with cooperation with a lot of different entities, of course, including the craft organization as well. So it was actually pretty informative. I hope you'll find it enjoyable. He actually offered some really interesting information, but for guys that have been doing it for 31 years, he's got a lot to say about it. So it was actually quite interesting. The second thing I did was update the community on the status of the town hall project to see, where we are at this point in time, what things have been done since the last time it was discussed. I think the last time we discussed it was in May on the show. So I wanted to make sure everybody's updated as to where we're at and making sure that there aren't any surprises down the road. But actually, the process is moving just exactly as it was supposed to do at this point in time, with having the committee do its work and then respecting their time to do the kind of detail that they need to do, and that we think we've done a good job of keeping everybody focused on what needs to get done. And then The Economic Development Committee had its first meeting last week. Thought it was a great meeting, and we had 10 people around the table, like, probably 12 or 13 with everybody else, with the support staff. And we're going to meet again on the week of October 7th, I believe, is our next meeting. And we're actually going to try and pull together an agenda for that meeting. But there was a lot of energy in that room following that. I know that David was present for that to represent the board. And a lot of good ideas being kicked around as to how we can proceed from there. I did notify them, too, that the Strategic Planning Group is meeting on October 1st for that meeting. That's the Planning Board, the Water Sewer Commission, and the Board of Selectmen. I encouraged them to attend that if they could, as well as I notified the Town Asset Review Committee to attend that as well, because they're trying to do something with that
Fire station.
to put the town, the fire station and the funeral home out to bid. So so rolling into that discussion, we just recently met with the auctioneer and provided him with all the information he needed so that he can actually start getting that information out. I have had an inquiry from a private developer about the property, just out of the blue. So I'm going to follow that up, pursue that a little bit more. But the process is hoping that we can get that thing out by October, November, and then do an auction in November. Is the plan at this point in time. So we just want to let people know that those are in motion.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of crossover between those committees.
Right.
Working kind of not parallel paths, but they'll be kind of crisscrossing a little bit.
Yeah, some of the ideas are a little more focused.
Yep.
I mean, economic development is looking more of a strategic discussion, whereas strategic planning, of course, is really more focused on the downtown area right for the time being. There may be other areas as well in terms of sewer that we can talk about.
Yeah.
But and of course, in Town Asset Review, of course, looks at all the different properties that are available for us to relinquish at some point. And then we just get an update along the lines of the 140 study that was being requested, and I just got a letter this afternoon from that was addressed to Representative Barrows, Senator Timblety, and Representative Steve Howard. And the letter says, "Thank you for your letter dated August 20th, 2015 regarding the request for a traffic study to be conducted on Route 140 from the Foxborough Regional Charter School to the Roach Brothers Plaza in Norton. Mass DOT's District 5 Project Development Section has reviewed this section and identified 2 high crash clusters that are located along this corridor at the intersection of Route 140 and School Street and at the intersection of Route 140 and Route 106, both of which are located in Mansfield. Within the past 10 years, the intersection of Route 140 and School Street was constructed as part of the Mansfield Crossing development, immediately adjacent on School Street. Mass DOT is currently designing a project to reconstruct the signals at the intersection of Route 140 and 106. The project is scheduled to be advertised in federal fiscal year 2019. Performing a traffic study along this corridor is a bit unusual as it spans across 2 different metropolitan area planning organizations, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District. District 5 reached out to Serpent to gauge their interest in performing a traffic study, including a small section of Route 140 in Foxborough, located within the MAPC limits. Serpent has expressed interest in performing a study, although they would need to reach out to MAPC for discussion and coordination. District 5 will coordinate with Serpent to begin discussions with the towns of Foxborough, Mansfield, and Norton. So, and if you have further questions, please contact Jim Kirsten at Mass DOT's Legislative Liaison. So, and that comes from the Highway Administrator, Tom Tinlin, who essentially says that that study is going to take place. So we're pleased to see that. So we'll get a full indication as to what kind of improvements need to be done along that corridor. And obviously knowing that there are some impact points, but that we've got a number of areas too that we want to have looked at, including Central Street, Central and 140, and then as well as the area where
Walnut Street?
Walnut Street that needs to be looked at. The area where the former Snyder Electric property, we should take a look at that as well, because that's eventually going to be resold or reused at some point. So we've got some, and of course the charter school is a concern as well, that area as well. So we've got really back-to-back issues right along that corridor there that need to be looked at, and those will all get evaluated as part of the study. Okay.
Sounds like some progress, right?
Some progress being made. And then, last but not least, first of all, I did want to mention the POW MIA ceremony on Sunday, which I thought was great. It was nice to see everybody there, and something that we should never forget as a community. And I give kudos to the community and to the town as a whole, just to continuously remind ourselves of how important it is to remember the service of our soldiers and those who've never come back. So I appreciate the opportunity to have participated in that event. And then last but not least, there will be a shops collection. And a letter's going to be going out to Dooley Disposal Services, which is is doing the majority of the collection throughout town now. And they will be doing a shops collection from Foxborough residents twice over the next few months. Collections will be held on Friday, November 13th, and Tuesday, December 15th, from 12 to 2 p.m. The collections will be held at the McGinty Room of the Foxborough Public Safety Building located at 8 Chestnut Street. If anybody has any questions, they can call Dooley Disposal at 508-543-1389. So
in Sharp's collection are needles.
Needles, right. So we want the folks to be mindful of the fact that there is a specific date in which that can be done, and the collection time that can be done. So we appreciate it if anybody hears this message, then please get it out to anyone who may be in that situation needs to do that.
Is there any more information on that, how they can bring their sharps in for disposal?
Again, I think that's a conversation they can have directly with Dooley if they contact them at 543-1389, or they can actually talk to our Board of Health, who's also been very helpful in offering guidance in that area.
Yeah, and Dooley does a good job with his emails, notifying people of changes and stuff, so I'm sure you can do the email blast of the specifics.
So those are my updates for this week, and now Mary Beth has just a couple as well.
Promise I won't take long, being the end of the evening. I just wanted to let you know that we have completed the library director search process. It was a pleasure to work with the trustees. I really enjoyed my time with them. We had 21 candidates. We did 7 phone interviews, brought 3 candidates back for face-to-face interviews, and an offer was made to Manuel Leet. He is currently the East Bridgewater Library Director, and he will be starting on October 19th. It was a unanimous decision of the screening committee, and he brings with him great energy. He's very involved in the Library Association sales and all of that, and he's really looking forward to starting with us. And the planning director process is well underway. We met last evening. We had 15 applicants. Not much quantity, but a lot of quality. We conducted 7 phone interviews, the screening committee. That has been narrowed now to 4 candidates who, in the coming weeks, will interview face-to-face. So
4 very high-quality candidates.
Very quality, yep.
Yeah.
And the screening committee is made up of 3 planning board members, an economic development committee member, building commissioner, myself, and the staff planner. And so we had some really good phone interviews last night. Just some coming attractions. We, at the culmination of a 4-year study of benefit options for town employees, we have engaged with Boston Mutual, and they'll be offering, we're changing the town's health insurance plan to them.
Life insurance.
Life insurance. Sorry.
Scared me for a second.
We had done, a study had been done, and employees are going to be offered an additional $5,000 worth of life insurance for the same cost that they're currently paying. It's life insurance is contributed 50% by the town and 50% by the employees. It's about $4 a month. But in addition to that, the study showed that people were interested in some optional benefits. So at no cost to the town, but to the benefit of the employees, they're able to purchase some group benefits for long-term disability, critical care, additional life. So we rolled that out this over the past couple of weeks to department heads. Yesterday we invited all the union members, the union representatives to it, and it'll be featured at our health fair, and also a series of open enrollments at all of the town buildings for employees. And again, this is no cost to the town, optional for employees, and it's a long time coming because the study was done like 4 years ago, and it just sort of lay dormant, and Bill and I
We jump-started it.
revitalized it. And lots of training has been ongoing for employees. Most everyone has completed ethics training and sexual harassment and anti-discrimination training. We issued certificates to all of the employees. And we're also doing training on all new forms, policies, in order to prepare for an employee self-service module of our payroll system, where employees can actually log on and merge that. So we're undergoing the training. We issued everybody a binder with new forms because in order to go paperless, we had to increase the amount of paper so that everybody's working from sort of the same scripts, understands what the codes are, what the forms are, what, you know, eventually it'll translate to an online system. But we've done a lot of work with accounting, finance. We trained department heads, put together a binder, trained all the administrators for each of the departments. So a lot of work going on to get everybody on the same page, but I think we're getting there.
So,
A lot of stuff going on.
a lot of stuff.
Ooh, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Just wanted to let you know, too, that I'll be leaving Thursday morning early on a 6 o'clock flight to Seattle for represent Foxborough and the state of Massachusetts at the ICMA conference in Seattle, Washington for the next week or so. I do intend to speak to a vendor, which I know all of you, we've talked about this at one point. We actually engaged a vendor, which I met with a year ago at this similar conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we talked about going to a more paperless approach for the meetings, for your meetings. And we spoke with that vendor and had some pretty in-depth discussions about how we could approach that. But we opted to wait because they were coming out with a new release in December or January of next year, which will allow us to actually expand that use of that same license to other boards and committees throughout the town. It was primarily engaged for just one use, and so we wanted to see if we can expand it beyond that to other boards and committees. So without buying an additional license, we would actually have one license that had multiple uses. So that version's not coming out until January of December, January, and I want to just get an update on where they stand with that.
Okay. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. 13 action items. I apologize for the lateness. Let's see if we can go through these efficiently. First action item you want to start with?
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
I make a motion, we accept the street namings in London Estates of Othlet Way and Peterson Lane.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
We discussed this last time, and again, just so the viewers at home know that if this development is approved, however, but it's modified to one street, one of these names will go back into the pool to be used, hopefully in another location.
Gotcha. And the other item that was kind of confusing last time was when a subdivision is filed, they take the path of the preliminary and then the definitive. This actually went straight to definitive, so they were not asking for a name before it was generally required. So I know there was a lot of
Right, it's not out of order.
It's not out of order, so everything seemed to be in order on this one. So motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
All right, number 2, I'd like to make a motion that we accept with gratitude the grant donation from the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office in the amount of $1,000 to help fund the Stewards of Children Darkness to Light program.
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded. Under discussion, just kudos to Superintendent Deb Spinelli. This is a big chunk that goes, it will be used very wisely by this committee. They've done a tremendous amount of training with the town staff and all the coaches, and it's very much needed, so, and appreciated. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. All right, number 3, Foxborough Cultural Council. I'd like to make a motion, we reappoint Liddy C. Chan, expiring 10/30/2018.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 4, Foxborough Cultural Council. I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Sam Jabbery to the Cultural Center, expiring 10/30/2018.
I'll second that.
Made and seconded, further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Number 5, the Foxborough Cultural Center. Make a motion that we reappoint Julie Jabbery to the Cultural Center expiring 10/30/2018.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, further discussion? All those in favor?
Number 6, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of Timothy F. O'Leary Jr. from the Child Sexual Abuse Committee effective 8/10/2015.
I'll second that, and thank you, Tim, for all the work that you've done in this committee.
Very good. Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Other than, I think they're reaching out, if you're interested and you are a public safety official, police or fire, there is an opening, and a very good committee to be on. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 7, Friends of the Flagpole Group. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the gift donations for the town common flagpole totaling $4,820 from various donors.
I'll second that. And thanks to those who donated.
And then just a note, it's well on our way, so there's gonna be a signboard off the common, hopefully after this weekend, that shows the thermometer coming up, so we'll be able, the public can track
I
it.
was wondering where are the total, any indication?
Yeah, we're over
6,000.
$6,000.
6,000, good.
A little bit higher than that. I talked to Jack the other day. Here's my check, by the way. What's your check? Already in? Okay.
Already in.
No pressure, right?
He's been going to the meetings. And special thanks to the committee, but also Mark Sullivan made a nice board. I just dropped it off at my house, so
Excellent.
it's gonna
Yeah,
be
and
painted.
that should accelerate it, so that's good. Jack was
Yeah.
very confident that we'd meet the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim's not confident.
I had my.
Have you seen the posters
Well, you
around
know what?
town? There's the posters that are up now with the pictures of it, saying, this is a real community project. It's great.
Yeah.
Very
Well done.
professional,
Very
yeah.
professional, yeah.
Face Tina Bellinger.
Yeah, nice job.
People have, my skepticism was it's close to 50,000, and when people look at it, they say, one, why can't the town pay for it? And there's a reason, we talked about this before.
Yeah.
But when you ask a little bit from a lot of people, they say,
Yeah,
oh,
they
somebody
close-
else will do it, and they don't jump in, so.
Well, I think Jack's
surprised.
approach is anything on the common is really, that's
community.
ours.
Oh, yeah.
Collectively,
Yeah.
and it's a.
Jack's story of how that whole common
Right,
came
it
to be is
represents how we
amazing.
behave as a community. So I think Jack is viewing this as a community project, and he's getting the motivation that he was looking for,
Yep.
and
Right.
people are responding.
Right.
So, and then again, the price, it seems high, but it's a big pole, it's the base, it's the patio that goes around it, prevailing wages, so it's.
Actually, the other
it's
day,
there.
I actually got a chance to take a look at it, and it's
It's in tough shape.
being held together by about 20 layers of paint.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah, they need some help.
It's an investment for the next 100 years.
That's right.
So look for the board next week, and motion was made, seconded, no more discussion, all those in favor of accepting?
Right. All right, number 8, Board and Library, to make a motion that we accept the gift donation for $10 from Janet Hayes for the purchase of a memorial book.
I'll second that.
Under discussion, is there a limit that $10, not to put down $10, but would people, at what point do we tell our department heads to send us stuff and go through this process? And I'd say that there's a lot of gratuity, but,
Yeah, I really don't know.
No.
because there's paperwork that goes with this, and department heads. have
No, I
to
think we
sign.
asked that a while ago, and we
I thought it was
have
50.
I didn't think it was anything. I think we have to go through the process of accepting any monetary gift.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, motion made, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Number 9, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Keno license for Fusion notification.
I'll second that. I have a question, though. I mean, how many other facilities in town have Keno?
I don't know if it's that.
I think the state told Mark we're at 5 to 6.
Is that what we're allowed, or how many currently exist that are licensed?
Here, 5 or 6.
Are presently operating.
Are presently operating in
Okay.
Foxborough.
Yeah, and the state issues this license, so.
Yeah, we don't control
You
that.
don't
So
control
what's our role in this?
None.
It's just notification that if, in case you, unless you had a real significant objection to it, you can actually register with the state.
And then
So
that's
this
a
is
public
really,
hearing
we're just
for that.
acknowledging at this
Yeah.
point. Okay.
So do we even have to?
It's notification, that's
Oh.
what it is. So
So
you're,
it's
you're
just
you're
a
reading it into the record.
Information only.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to number 10 then.
11. Oh, no, 10, you're right, 10.
Board of Appeals, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation of J. Neil Forrester, effective 10/1/15 from the Board of Appeals.
I'll second that and thank Neil for all of his service on the zoning board of appeals over the years.
Yeah.
Great
I
guy.
echo that as well.
Likewise.
I echo that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
All right, number 11, also the Board of Appeals, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint the appointment of David J. Brown to the Board of Appeals as a full member expiring on 5/1/2017.
Second.
Motion made, second. Further discussion on the appointment?
Just one question, will that be effective 10/1 expiring on 5/1/18?
No, it's gonna be, they need
They
to
changed
overlap
it,
the dates,
yeah.
so it's gonna be 2017.
No, I'm talking about the appointment date. Is that effective immediately? Because Neil's technically not off yet.
But we accepted his resignation, so he's off.
So it's effective 10/1/15.
Right, so that's the point. I
I see.
think that's accurate.
It is?
That's
Well,
okay.
yeah,
It's
I mean, yeah, as of 10/1/15, he'll be a full member.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave Brown will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so motion was made to appoint David Brown for expiring 5/1/17, not 18.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Right.
Motion carries.
Okay,
And
number
Neil is
12.
back.
Yep, Neil is back. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint J. Neil Forrester to the Board of Appeals as an associate member expiring on 5/1/16.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome back, Neil.
We want to welcome Neil's service.
All right.
I think it was 13.
Yeah, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from 9/8/15.
Okay, very thick meeting minutes, September 8th.
I want to make a motion, and I got some changes in the list.
All right, yeah, I make a motion, we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of 9/8/2015.
I'll second that.
Okay, comments?
On page 4, second to last paragraph said, Mr. Gray stated it was very clear with the owners. Just to clarify, I said, Mr. Gray stated that the documents submitted were very clean as to the new owner interest percentages. He was trying to explain it, and I said it made sense to me. Just that the way that is crafted is somewhat nebulous.
Any other changes?
I didn't see any.
No more changes to Deb's 29-page minute?
Pretty good, Deb.
Pretty good, Deb.
Awesome.
One other, on page 22, it said that this is acceptance of London Estates, that Mr. Gray stated that he had talked to Rich Leslie. It was
I
Rich
assume you meant-
DeCoste.
Okay. And I didn't know, I assumed Bay Colony was involved, so I went with Rich Leslie.
Okay.
Okay, it was Richard who?
DeCoste.
Cost. Yeah,
He's listed
the,
on page
abutter
23.
that came in.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Any other revisions, suggestions? Changing of history, anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries with the revisions. Debbie, thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, Deb.
Excellent.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor? Good night, everybody. Thank you.